Good afternoon. We are back for the afternoon session of day 12 of the Commonwealth versus Karen Read. The judge does break pretty abruptly for lunch, so we were right in the middle of the prosecution's direct examination of Allison McCabe, Jen McCabe's daughter. Remember, Jen McCabe is the name that keeps coming up in all of this. The phone calls that weren't answered to her sister, the phone call that wasn't returned to her best friend. Her sister is, of course, Nicole Albert, the homeowner at 34 Fairview with her husband, Brian Albert. And Allison McCabe is the one who picked up Colin Albert from the 34 Fairview residence and took him back to his house with his mom, Julie, and dad, Chris Albert being the one that owns like the pizza and sub shop, Brian Albert being the one that is a retired Boston police officer. But apparently they've all got Life 360. So maybe we have some phone data, but I'm not holding out a ton of hope for that, because the one thing we've learned about this case, the one thing that I am clear on, very clear, loud and clear, is that this investigation was not nearly as thorough as it should have been. And that's a frustrating thing, because you watch and you're just like, well, what about this? And then there's no that. And you're like, but what about this? And then there's no that. And you're like, but did they do this? No, there's no this. Wonderful. So with that, we're going to hop back into court, and that's what we're going to do. My podcast bleeds into the live stream. I know I tried to keep the podcast short, and I just couldn't, but I don't want to get too far behind in court today. So it's just one of those, more money, more problems today, more content, more problems today, because I don't want to get too far behind in court. And I didn't have time to eat. So we need to roll some court so I can at least have my beloved cheese sticks. And that's what we're going to do this afternoon. It's so good to see you guys. B2 said it in the chat. Phones get rehomed, dogs get rehomed, home gets rehomed or re-ownered. Did the Life 360 get canceled? It's just so wild. And just a reminder to everyone, the Law Nerd iridescent tumblers are on sale in Law Nerd Shop at lawnerdshop.com. You can also click through to that from the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. Those are on sale through May 24th. If you are watching this in the future, hello, replay crew. Good to see you. That is on sale. And we are coming into this trial as a jury, really, and trying to keep what is shown in the courtroom as, for me, the information I have. If you are curious and you want more information, have at you. But I don't want to know, because it gets difficult to parse in my mind. And this trial has taken so much mental energy to follow Lolly's questions that I don't know if I can parse what I know and what I don't know in this case, because I'm also trying to parse what, if anything, he's sort of saying in these questions. So I appreciate you also coming into it with curiosity and letting the testimony unfold, which also means that as the testimony unfolds on direct examination, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. And then cross-examination starts and I'm like, wait, what did you say now? What now? And I can see how my perception of witnesses changes. And that's what the jury has to go through. Oh, this makes sense. And then you get to cross and you're like, well, now none of that makes sense. And it's that back and forth of trying to figure out what's going on in a case that the jury's going through themselves. And with all of that, we are going to get back to court. But unlike the jury, we get to have snacks. We get to get up and move around when we want. If you want to do a noodly Google, you can. There are things I will warn you before Googling. Officer B is one of them. But, you guys get to choose how you do it. Thank you for not bringing it in here. And of course, I don't mind the, girl, just wait till there's this. But so far, I'm waiting for more. And we'll see what more there is to more. Law Nerds, let's get back to court. So I'm going to roll the intro. I appreciate you. Let's see if we can do the right one today, shall we?
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it.
So we are back in court. I think I have this gained up appropriately. Maybe not. There we go. Let's gain that up appropriately. We are just coming back into court with the judge taking the bench. I always want to hear if the lawyers have anything they want to put on the record or go to sidebar about before court starts. Just because sometimes it's helpful. But we're going to be resuming with the direct examination of Allison McCabe. This is witness number 36. Why did I decide to keep count?
Can we have Ms. McCabe, please?
Because I'm baffled about how many witnesses we have. But I wonder if that means Jen McCabe is next. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Colin Albert's next at this point. I mean, that might make sense. But if you have the Leonard app, I will message you when different witnesses take the stand. So if you need to pop in and out, I get it.
Remind you, you're still under oath.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
The judge sounds like, if you must. All right, Mr. Lally, when you're ready.
Now, Ms. McCabe, if I could take you back just to a little bit from where we...
Could you take me back to you speaking up a little?
When you arrived at the residence of 34 Fairview Road, you pulled into the driveway, is that correct?
I believe so.
She doesn't remember.
So obviously, on that date, you were familiar with the types of vehicles that your parents drove?
Yes.
And did you see any of your parents' vehicles at the home when you pulled in and parked in the driveway?
No.
And when you got to the house at any point, did you exit the car or go inside the house?
No.
So you texted him that you were there, and you stayed in the car, and he came out.
Yes.
And when
It's a very leading
Colin
question.
came out to the car, what, if any, observations did you make of him in regard to his sobriety? As far as what, if any, observations did you make in respect to that?
But he's just real
Normal.
chill with like
Didn't seem overly intoxicated
teens
to you.
drinking.
And as far as his face or features, or from whatever you could see, what, if any, injuries did you observe on Colin when he came out?
None.
And how would you describe his demeanor when he came out and he got into the car?
Normal.
Now, during the course, you drove from the Fairview home to Colin's house, is that right?
Yes.
And where was Colin living at that point?
I don't know the address, but his new house, not the one where he was neighbors with John, the newer house.
What?
And,
Oh.
if you could, just generally speaking, where was
Okay.
that in relation to the town of Canton? What was it?
It's in the center of town, close to the library.
And
Right.
do you recall, or do you know what type of residence that is?
Yes, it's
The
like
townhouse?
condos. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah. Townhouses.
As far as your drive from the residence in Fairview to Colin's house, did you make any stops along the way?
No.
About how long a drive is it from Fairview to Colin's new house?
7 minutes, 5 minutes.
And when you arrived there, what did you observe Colin to do?
Got out of the car, went inside, got the key, locked it, went inside.
And is that something as far as, did you wait for him to get inside?
Yes.
And why was it?
I always wait for him because it's like how he has to open the first door to get inside. So I usually just wait for everyone to get inside.
And during the car ride from Fairview
I think
to,
most people do.
Colin's house, do you recall anything specific about?
Birds aren't on my
Did
end,
you have a
chat.
conversation with him?
Probably. I don't remember what we were talking about.
And then following that, where did you go?
I believe home.
And when you got home, were either of your parents home at that point?
No,
Do you know about what time it was that you got?
not exactly. I would estimate a little bit before 12:30, around that time.
And at any point in time over the rest of the course of that evening, did you see your parents? Did you talk to your parents or anything like that?
I know I talked to my dad on the phone when we found the dog. Other than that, no.
And so after your return home, when you went to bed, or you
Dawned on me as asking why no closed captions anymore.
No.
I don't know.
about how much?
I don't know why the feeds we've been using stopped using closed caption. So
Not long. I don't know.
on device closed caption might help.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, at some point you woke up, correct?
Yes.
And were your parents home at that point?
Yes.
And were both of your parents home at that point?
Yes.
Do you know about what time it was that you woke up the next morning?
No, I do not.
Now,
Is there a
McCabe, at some
question,
point,
Molly?
In August of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with some troopers from the state police?
Not till August.
Yes, I believe. I'm not sure what time, but on a Zoom.
On a Zoom? Okay. This is the first time that Lolly has actually gotten out ahead of when were you interviewed? August 2023. So.
And was that one trooper or more than one trooper or something?
I believe 2. I'm not sure.
Do you recall any of the names
Versus
of any of
Zoom.
those troopers?
Yuri maybe was one of them. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, just gonna wait for that.
Yes, we're not going to get into Yuri's last name.
And now, ma'am, following that meeting that you had with troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide to them from your phone?
Text messages with Colin, maybe pictures. I don't know. Definitely the text messages.
Did your mom also ask for those text
Before
messages?
we get to that, just as far as
That would be
phone,
helpful.
What kind of phone did you have at that time?
I believe an iPhone 14 Pro Max, maybe.
I mean, Pro Max is kind of the way to go.
I should have been more specific as far as the time, but the iPhone you're talking about as far as the Pro Max, was that in January of 2022
Oh, I'm sorry.
or in August of 2020?
That was in August.
And between January of 2022 and August of 2023, did you have the same phone throughout that time period?
I'm not sure. I believe I upgraded. Yeah.
And when you upgraded your phone, what
It's a compelling upgrade year, I guess.
carried over from the old phone to the new phone?
Everything.
No, that's
so as far as chats,
not
or
accurate.
text messages or phone contacts, things like that, all of that transferred from one phone to the new phone.
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Not everything transfers over. Not everything transfers over from the phone. She might believe everything transfers over. I don't think she's lying about that. She might believe everything transfers over because if you upload it to iCloud, it may. You'll have your text messages and things like that. But the data on the phone that you would get from like a Celebrite extraction that would show if you unlock your phone with, Face ID versus a code or what have you, when your phone was plugged into power, when it was, how many steps it moved, that type of data on your phone doesn't transfer over. So I think it's misleading for the prosecutor to say everything transfers, because I can't believe that he doesn't understand that there are some things within your phone that doesn't transfer over. But again, I don't fault this witness for that. I fault the prosecution for that. But we will get into that, I am sure, with the defense and with the phone experts. So the backed up information from iCloud transfers.
And so first, ma'am, I'm going to show you.
I don't know if the Life 360 data
Okay.
would transfer. I don't know if they still had it.
And do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that?
This is from my phone, my text messages.
That will be interesting.
Second page, what is that?
Colin's contact information.
Are those?
Why didn't they
screenshots
extract
from your
these
phone
phones?
Provided to the troopers in August of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Call all the seat to introduce the event as objection. I'd ask to be heard.
Okay, come on up and bring that.
I appreciate that the defense said, objection, I'd like to be heard. You're like, objection, I'd like to be heard, meaning objection, Your Honor, don't rule on this. We need to talk about it. I am surprised that some of these phones are just screenshotted and not actually extracted. So let's see how long this sidebar is. I'm very curious as to what is happening at sidebar. So I'm trying to zoom.
Step out for just a few minutes.
Oh, the jury's stepping out. I hope they put this on the record more thoroughly. Lucy said, question, can't they still get the data from the phone company? Call data, they can, but not all the data stored natively on the phone. So not everything stored natively on the phone you can get. You can get the call logs, the times of calls, things like that, but not the like power on, power off, and those types of information that became so very, very relevant in the Murdoch case. If you watch that case, when phones were powered on, when the screen came on, became very, very important in that case. Okay, they're going to argue over the text messages, or they're going to voir dire on the text messages. We'll see.
1 second, just to pick up something. It's not right in the hallway.
Okay.
The witness is still on the stand. The jury has been
Briefly
excused.
explain to the witness what's occurring.
Yes, I just need Miss Giannetti back.
Sorry.
Okay. So, thank you. And the next two, if they would be marked separately, please. Thank you. All right, the lawyers are going to get to ask you a few questions now before we go any further in front of the jury.
So they're going to do a voir dire on the text messages.
So,
I've never seen this done this much in a
Mr.
case.
Rowley, you can take the exhibits back and you can question this witness, and then Ms. Giannetti can cross-examine.
May I approach with?
Yes.
Alderman?
I mean, everybody got new phones that year.
So, Ms. McCabe, with reference to the 2 screenshots that we were just talking about before the jury left the room, those are screenshots that you took from your own phone, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the communications contained therein,
Chad, I saw a lot of questions about voir dire. I think we've officially titled it a side quest to figure out something that they want to know outside the presence of the jury. We didn't hear the objections that the defense made. I don't know if they're objecting to the veracity of these text messages. It seems that what the prosecution is offering is screenshots, not call records, not extractions from the phone, screenshots. The problem is screenshots can be subject to a lot of issues that you don't have if you go to Verizon or whatever and get a download of records, or if you get an extraction from the phone. These, I don't believe, are extracted. It seems from what he's handing her that these are screenshots that she provided to the troopers, not her phone to download, just like, yeah, here. So I don't know if because she was over Zoom, I don't even know if she showed them her phone or sent these later. So now they get to inquire about these outside the presence of the jury, because the jury might not get to see them. The jury might not get to know what's in these screenshots. So let's continue. Let's continue on with all of this and see. So this is the lawyers questioning the witness outside the presence of the jury to figure out what will come in before the jury. These always get real spicy.
is it your memory that those are communications that you had with Colin Albert?
Why don't you ask her what they are, non-leading?
Those,
The judge sounds like she's fed the fuck up with this prosecutor today. Just same.
is it your memory that those are communications that you had with Colin Albert?
Why don't you ask her what they are,
'Cause
non-leading?
he doesn't know how at this point.
Those
What are they?
screenshots, as far as the communications,
They are
what are they? When were they done?
compound.
At a later date. Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
So I'm asking, as far as
He
the
doesn't
actual
know.
content of the conversations, when did those conversations occur?
January 28th.
And you were a participant in those conversations?
Yes.
And as far as the content of those conversations, is it your memory that the content reflected there is accurate as to what the content of the conversations were between yourself and Colin Albert the evening of the 28th into the 29th?
Yes.
And Colin Albert was somebody that you were familiar with, correct?
Yes.
And beyond what's contained within these screenshots, you had other text communications with Colin Albert using the same contact information.
Text communications.
And how is it that you knew or were aware that the person or the contact that you were talking to was Colin Albert?
Because it's his phone.
With reference to that contact you had in your phone for Colin Albert, had you called that number before?
Yes.
When you called the number, who answered?
Colin.
And when you had texted,
There are some foundational objections here
Colin
that
on
he's trying to get
prior
around.
occasions using that contact information, did you have any? You have a text communication. Did you have any subsequent conversation in relation to the content of those text communications?
Sorry, can you rephrase that?
And I'm not just asking specifically about these. What I'm saying is you had contact information in your
That's
phone
the problem.
Yes.
That's the problem, Lily. You're not just saying.
And on any of those prior occasions when you had texted, that contact information you put in as Colin Albert into your phone.
Yes.
And just to be clear, you were the one who input that.
That's
number
leading
of
in
Colin Albert
compound.
into your phone.
Yes.
And so on this or any prior occasions when you had contacted via text that contact of Colin Albert in your phone, following those text communications, did you have any conversation with Colin Albert related to the content?
That's leading in compound.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Do you understand the question?
No.
You have to make these simpler. Let's try and get through this voir dire, Mr. Mallory.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're screaming you have to make this simpler over here. Asking good
At some point
questions
during the course of your,
is an art.
how long had you had Colin's contact information in your phone?
For a while, years.
And over the course of those years, had you had conversations related to content in text in person?
Oh, yes.
And as far as the content that you had texted to that number you associated or input as Colin Albert, was Colin Albert aware of the content of those text communications?
Oh, correct. Yeah.
And within those specific screenshot of the text communications from that evening, as far as your recollection of...
You know what he should have asked her? Let me interrupt you. What he should have asked her is, did you text Colin the evening of January 28th? This is what they're talking about. Yes. Or did you text this number? Yes. After you texted this number, what did you text? I'm here. And then what happened? Colin Albert came out of the house. So you know that your text, I'm here, went to Colin Albert? Yes. So you know that this is Colin Albert's phone? Yes. They're trying to lay foundation for who these texts are going back and forth from, because the defense isn't going to just let this one slide with no foundation. But he didn't ask that.
That particular evening, are the times that are associated with those accurate as far as your memory?
Yes.
And did you do anything to alter the times that are associated with those text communications prior to taking a screenshot and giving it?
And that.
No.
Did you alter the times?
Now, turning to the other two screenshots that you took, those are photographs, correct?
Look at this.
Did I take them?
photograph.
I'm just asking what they are.
Oh, both pictures of Colin. One's with my aunt. The other's just him and some other people walked off.
And do you know when
Other people
and where
walked
those
off?
Yes, they were taken at the Albert's house. One of their sons were coming home from the Marines, so it was like a welcome home party.
And when was that in relation to the evening of January 28th, 29th?
A few weeks after.
And that sort of coming home celebration for your cousin who was coming home from the Marines, were you there for that?
Yes.
And so as far as your observation of those photographs, is what's depicted of Colin Albert, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what he looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
All right, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you, Ron.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How long have you had?
Yanetti's getting to ask questions now, but the reason they asked if that's a picture from February 11th of Colin Albert when his cousin came home from the Marines is to see if he had, I guess, any injuries. The prosecution's already asked about that or anything like that. So That's what we're getting into.
An iPhone. I'm not talking about your current iPhone, but just iPhones in general.
For years.
More than 5 years?
Yes.
And how old are you now?
I'm 20.
20. And when did you get your first iPhone, if you remember?
I don't remember.
12, 13?
Yeah, around middle
So
schoolish.
maybe 7 or 8 years. Is that a decent estimate?
Yes.
And in those 7 or 8 years, you have learned how to operate an iPhone, the various features that they have and the apps that you can download and use, correct?
Correct.
And your current iPhone has a number of apps on it, correct?
Correct.
With regard to the text message app, you'll agree with me that that is a green icon with a white sort of speech bubble in the middle of it.
The Apple text
Yes,
app?
I believe.
And you know that when you click on that, it gives you a list of the text messages that you're exchanging with people, the various threads, correct?
Correct.
And the
You know
ones
that
are
if you
pinned.
click on a thread, it opens up the individual text messages that you've sent and received to that particular person, correct?
Correct.
And you know that if you take your finger or your thumb and you hold it on one particular text that's either sent to you or from you, you can do things with that individual text, correct?
Correct.
You can delete
forward
it.
to somebody else, right?
Correct, I believe.
In the context of a conversation, you can just reply to that one particular text message, right?
Correct.
And if you do that, rather than hit the arrow button where you forward or reply, on the left side of the screen, there's a trash can, correct?
I'm not sure.
You know that you can delete a text from a thread, correct?
Correct.
All right. And it's a trash can that you click on, right?
Correct.
I'm not trying to trick you.
No, I was confused. Sorry.
No, I understand. I don't mean to confuse you. So you know that if you click on the trash can, it gives you an option to either cancel or to delete the message, correct?
Correct.
And what happens if you delete the message?
It's deleted off the phone.
Okay, so it's gone from that thread, correct?
Correct.
And somebody looking at a screenshot that you take after you've deleted that message, it wouldn't be evident that that message was ever there, correct?
Correct.
Now, you testified at a hearing in Boston on August 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was, and we're not with a jury present, that was a federal grand jury, correct?
Correct.
And you had, by that point, by August of 2023, you no longer had the phone that you originally had on January 29th of 22, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
You had gotten
jury's
a new phone
not
in
there.
December of 2022, correct?
The jury's not there, which is why he can say federal grand jury. Remember, this is 1 year.
The phone that you originally had on January 29th of 22, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
You had gotten a new phone in December of 2022, correct?
Okay, I'm not sure what time, but
Does that?
yeah, I got a new
Right.
phone. I believe I got a new phone.
But, and actually, the timing is not that important, just that it was before that grand jury appearance.
Okay, yes.
All right. And what did you do with the old phone when you got the new phone?
I upgraded it.
Transfer through iCloud, everything transfers over.
Okay, but I'm actually talking about the hardware itself.
Oh, what did I do?
iPhone.
Traded it
Sorry,
in.
can you repeat the question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Not the data on the phone. I understand that you've testified that you transferred that to the new phone, but the actual physical phone itself, where did that go when you got the new phone?
I'm not sure.
Would that have been traded in?
Possibly.
You don't have it now, correct?
I don't think, no.
And as of August of 2023, you didn't have it either, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that no investigator from this case ever asked you for that phone that you had on January 29th?
Correct.
They
Right, so,
never-
Ms. Giannetti, can we just focus on the voir dire? All that you're doing, you can cross-examine her with, but on the voir dire of this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd just like to get the jurors back in.
No, I understand, Your Honor. I understand. I was trying to lay a foundation, but maybe it's not necessary.
I mean,
so,
just jump into it, is what she
with
said.
regard to,
But no one asked for the phone.
If you need to do it, go ahead. I'm just trying to.
I want to accommodate the court, Your Honor. With regard to the messages that are in a given thread, right? We've talked about the fact that you are aware that you can reply to them, an individual message, forward or delete one, correct?
Correct.
You're also aware that
the judge
it is
did
possible
move the
to
prosecutor
change
along on this too.
the timestamp on any individual message, correct?
What?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You go to settings and you go to general and you go to date and time.
But that's not changing
First of
the
all,
time
you can
of
change the time zone of the
a
message.
specific text, though.
Do you have your iPhone with you right now?
Not on me.
Not on?
I wouldn't bring my phone into court either. It
and
went off that one time.
In addition to being able to change
That's
the
not true. As a
time
lawyer, I
zone,
would bring it in.
you actually can change the
As a
hour
witness, I might
and
not.
minute to whatever you want it to be. Were you aware of that?
No.
With regard to photos on your phone, you are aware that you can change the date and time of any photo in your photo app, correct?
Nope.
There is a little, when you go to your iPhone, there's a
In
little
the-
eye
You can manipulate
for
the metadata.
information. And all you need to do is, I think it's for info or information. All you need to do is click on that and you get a pop-up from the bottom that gives you the choice to alter the date and time.
Yeah, I don't think
Did
a lot
you
of
know
people. I don't
No.
think a lot of people know that.
Next to that date and time is the word adjust.
I think they need to
And
ask
that's all you have to click on. And you can
JJ
change the
if she
time
knows that.
from 12:10 a.m. or you can change it from 12:40 a.m. to 12:10 a.m. or you can change it from 1:45 to 12:10 a.m. And it's that easy.
Yep. Now I know. I didn't know that. I didn't do that.
I may have a moment.
Okay.
That's it for the one hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to allow this testimony, and your argument goes to the weight of the evidence, not
The
its
admissibility.
admissibility. But I did, under Commonwealth versus Tracci, want to give you your voir dire. Okay. All right. So let's bring the jurors back in.
The judge is allowing in apparently the screenshots and will allow them to be more thoroughly voir dired on. Well, it'll be cross-examination by the time we get to cross-examination, but
Yes,
the
PUR.
screenshots
Your Honor,
and the
before the jurors come back in, may I just retrieve the exhibits?
Yes,
The
but I'd like
screen-
to see counsel at sidebar while they're coming in.
oh gosh, the screenshots and the photos, the text messages, and the photos of Caitlin, Albert, and Katie McLaughlin are being used for different purposes. So I think the foundation here is going to go to the weight,
I think we should sit.
but they're not being used for impeachment. These are being used as part of evidence. But I still think, again, I think there's foundational issues on these. I think there were foundational issues on the photos. But this witness is saying, I screenshotted this. This is from my phone. Different than the photos of Caitlin and Katie, where the person who took the photo was not in court. Nobody knew who took the photo, when the photo was from. This witness is saying, I did it. These are mine, and they're true. The jury will get to decide if they are or not. So I guess we're going to just... Something happened.
Court's back in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, I apologize profusely. I just need one more minute. I'm so sorry.
He looked at the jury and went, this is completely my fault. I heard the judge sigh on that one. I don't fault her for that. She was just like, really? We haven't, for those of you asking about whether or not there is a tech experts in this case, we haven't gotten to any of the expert testimony except for briefly this morning, and that was out of order. So we're just not to that part. I don't know who, if anyone, will be an expert in this case, but I imagine there will be
Mr.
some.
Lally, I have an instruction to give if you're going to put in that screenshot.
Yes.
Okay. Jurors, remember, I've told you this before you consider any electronic
I
communication
like how she does
in your
this.
deliberations, you must find first that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent the communication was in fact either Colin Albert or Ms. Allie McCabe. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that Ms. McCabe or Mr. Albert was the person who authored or created or transmitted the electronic communication, then you cannot consider that communication in your deliberations. So with that, Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, the first 2 pages that's been marked AA, Commonwealth would seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Okay, those may be admitted.
And subject to our conversation.
Amy, it's good to see you in the chat, friend. We don't know yet. Amy Van Dyken in the chat said, "What if anything did Karen redo?" We don't.
And Your Honor, if I may just approach to return it to the witness.
Sure.
We don't know yet.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. McCabe, with reference to, well, before we get into that, you had an iPhone at the time of January 20th, is that correct?
Correct.
That was somebody's microphone.
And with respect to
Wasn't me.
your friend Colin Alberts, as far as his contact information within your phone, who entered that in your phone?
I did.
And prior to that date of January 28th into the 29th of 2022, had you had phone conversations where you would sort of press the button to call that number and it rang, correct?
Correct.
And who, if anyone, answered the phone when you contacted that phone number in your phone?
Colin.
Now, with reference
I don't know why I
to,
didn't ask.
Colin and the contact in your phone, had you had prior text communications with Colin using that contact that you put in?
Correct.
And outside of those text communications that you had, did you have sort of physical in-person conversations with Colin in regard to content that was within text messages you have with that content?
Yes, I assume so.
And specifically
You assume
on that
so.
date of January 28th and the 29th, when you arrived at the home on Fairview Road, you texted Colin that you were there?
Yes.
And after you texted him that, what, if anything, happened after that?
He responded saying okay, and then he came out to the car.
There's the question.
And Your Honor, if I may, with the court's permission, just publish the text communication to the jury on the screen.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down a bit.
So they are pulling up the text
Now, what's up
messages.
on the screen, Mr. Cave, is that what you have before you as the exhibit?
Yes.
And looking at, there's sort of one side has text and one side has a blue bubble, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you know who is communicating with who as far as the sort of plain text outside of the bubble?
Colin and I? Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
What I'm asking is, who's the blue bubble?
Oh, sorry. I'm
Those
the blue
don't-
bubble and he is the gray, whitish bubble.
And from sort of the top of
I haven't
what's
looked at my
depicted on
phone
the
not in dark
screen,
mode in a really long time.
read the text that you received and the time that you received.
Yes. 11:54. And then I responded at 11:55.
You can get me now sounds like my 16-year-old texting me.
You can get me now if easier.
And what did you respond?
Okay, I am driving people home now.
And what did Colin respond to that, and what time did he respond?
He responded, word, get me after.
And if someone, if you could scroll down. And following the getting after, what, if any, response did you provide?
KK. Okay, and here,
And then nothing till February 20th?
12:10 a.m.
And what, if anything, did Colin respond to your text?
He responded at the same time saying, okay.
Assuming you can take that.
Colin's parents said he got home
Can you
at
approach this to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
12:10. But she was saying she just got there at 12:10, so it couldn't have been.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I
So the
also,
next,
chat
two
didn't see a
pages,
day
two
change.
separate pages,
The nothing
containing
until February
photographs, is that
20th
correct?
is
Yes.
not.
And do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs that I've just placed before you?
Yes.
What do you recognize those to be?
It's Colin. Is that what you're asking?
Well, let me ask you more specifically.
Okay.
So, were these also screenshots that you provided to troopers of the state police in August of 2020?
Yes, I believe so.
What, in regard to those two photographs, do you know when and where those photographs were taken?
They were taken February 11th at the Alberts, Nicole and Brian's house.
Objection. Move to strike.
No, I'm going to let her testify when they were taken.
And so February 11th of what year, ma'am?
2022.
Because she was
A
there.
few weeks after January 28th, 29th, correct?
Yes.
And were you present at the Alberts house on the evening of February 11th when they were taken?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of yourself and or Colin or anybody being over the Alberts house on that day?
One of Nicole and Brian's sons were coming home from their Marines, so there was like a welcome home party with family and friends.
And that is your cousin Jack, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as what's contained in those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal as far as your memory of what Colin looked like on February 11th?
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach again?
Yes.
Almost to seek to introduce in a minute the next two exhibits.
Without seeing the document he's showing her, I don't know if there's no text bubble around those texts or if it's just being blown out by them being put on the screen or what. So I don't know. It looks odd. My phone is in dark mode all the time. So it's been a minute. But it doesn't look like there's a text bubble around them, but I would need to see the exhibit, not the exhibit on the screen that is lit and then lit from the side and then has a camera on it.
Of course, permission, may I publish those to the juries?
Yes.
It's more interesting to me that the date doesn't
Yes.
change. I mean, did she take that photo? What is...
If you could just enlarge that a bit.
Where was that photo retrieved
What's, now
from?
on the screen is what you have before you as Exhibit 82.
Yes.
And if you could just describe to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this photograph, who's depicted.
Colin and my auntie Coco.
And your auntie Coco is also Nicole Albert,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yes, Nicole.
And if I could direct your attention to the next exhibit for you, Exhibit 83. Pull that up on the screen.
Who scribbled out people's faces? What in the...
And again, what's up on the screen is that what you have before you as Exhibit 83.
Yes.
This is the same evening, is that correct?
Who
Correct.
scribbled out
Where in the house is this
faces?
photograph was taken?
I believe they call it their library. Maybe it's the room in the back.
And as far as what's contained in this photograph in reference to your friend Colin Albert, as far as his face, his arms, his hands, is that fair and accurate portrayal of what he looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, you can take it. May I approach one more time just
Yes.
to retrieve?
Thank you.
The scribbling is just too much. The scribbling is just... It's just too much.
Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions, John.
Okay.
Oh,
Mr.
boy.
Yannetti?
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ms. McCabe, you have known Colin Albert your whole life, correct?
Correct.
Your mother is Jennifer McCabe.
Correct.
His mother is Julie Albert,
Correct.
and her maiden name was Julie Daniel.
Correct.
Your mother, Jennifer, grew
Tried
up
it.
together with his mother, Julie,
Tried
correct?
it.
Correct.
Good luck, Yannetti.
You and Colin are extremely close, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you would
They're
consider
the same
Colin
age-ish.
Albert to be one of your best friends in the world, correct?
Yes, he's one of my best friends.
Now, you claim that you took a screenshot of a text conversation that you had with Colin Albert on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Those were the screenshots that were just shown to this jury this afternoon, correct?
Correct.
And you claim that the information on that screenshot actually existed on January 29th, correct?
That's what she
Correct.
Did you tell your mother, Jennifer McCabe, that you had that text conversation with Colin Albert anytime after January 29th of 2022?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you give to your mother,
Yep.
Jennifer McCabe, a screenshot of that text message conversation?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why?
It's fair to say that on January 29th,
Why was that sustained?
30th, 31st, you did not turn over that screenshot to any law enforcement official, correct, of 2022?
No, I was never asked.
No investigator from this case ever asked you for copies or a copy
I believe
of that
that.
screenshot of that text message conversation on January
Like, I
29th,
100% believe that.
31st,
That
correct?
nobody asked her for it.
Correct.
They also did not ask you for a copy of that screenshot through the whole month of February, correct?
Correct.
In fact, all of 2022, no investigator ever approached you to say, can I have a copy of that screenshot, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to that,
That I believe
you
100%.
never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of a screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert, correct?
No, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time.
How is it not relevant at that time? And how
I
do you
believe, 'cause
determine?
Colin was not at the house and wasn't introduced as being there until later.
What?
So your
Why do you think it wasn't relevant, ma'am?
They also did not ask you for a copy of that screenshot through the whole month of February, correct?
Oh, because no one disclosed that Colin had been there
All of
till later.
2022, no investigator ever approached you to say, can I have a copy of that screenshot, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to that, you never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of a screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert, correct?
No, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time,
Okay.
I believe, because Colin was not at the house and wasn't introduced as being there until later.
So your testimony today is that at no time in the year 2022 did you consider it relevant at all that you had this screenshot of this text conversation, correct?
Correct.
Leaving that screenshot aside, but actually, before I leave that topic, you didn't turn over that screenshot of a text message until sometime during the summer of 2023, correct?
Correct.
About a year and a half or more after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes, when I was asked.
And by that time, the summer of 2023, you had already switched phones, correct?
Yes, believe.
In other words, the iPhone that you had on January 29th of 2022, you no longer had possession of that physical phone, correct?
Correct.
You had a new iPhone, correct?
Correct.
And you say that you transferred over the data from the old phone to the new phone.
She
correct?
did say that.
Correct.
When did you take that screenshot that was displayed to the jury today?
That's what I want to know.
I don't remember.
Was it before or after you got rid of your old phone?
I don't remember.
So we don't know if that screenshot was from your phone that you got
Why would you have taken it if it wasn't relevant, though?
2022, or if it was from the phone that you had back in January of 2022, correct?
Correct.
That phone that you
Wouldn't
got
there be
in
metadata
December
on the
of
screenshot?
2022, it's now May of 2024. Do you still have that same phone?
The phone, my old phone? Is that?
No, my question was, and again, I'm not trying to trick you in any way here. The phone that you got in December of 2022, the new phone at that time, is that the phone, your current phone?
Correct.
Now, before you got rid of the old phone and got the new one, did any law enforcement official, prior to that December of 2022 time period, or investigator from this case ever ask to examine your physical phone itself?
No.
Did they ever
I'm not shocked.
say to you, we would like to do what's called an extraction on your phone?
No.
And you never gave that phone at any point to any law enforcement official before you got rid of it, correct?
Correct.
There might be some probable cause issues, though, with extracting her
The first time
phone.
that you mentioned that text conversation outside your family was August 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was at a proceeding in Boston, correct?
Correct.
Where neither Mr. Lally or Ms. McLaughlin agree with it.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, move along, Mr. Yannetti.
Yes. That proceeding in August of 2023
I think
was
it's fair.
less than a year ago, correct? We're in May of 2024.
I think it's fair that Yannetti makes the point, Lolly wasn't there, I wasn't there. I don't think he's trying to insinuate anything to the jury other than to make it clear we didn't know that we weren't there. But
Correct.
And that was a long
Y'all
time
might disagree with
after
me.
John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
And that August of 2023, when you're revealing that text exchange, that was over a year and a half after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And leaving aside the screenshot, as of August 3rd of 2023, no investigator from this case, no state police trooper or anybody from the DA's office had ever interviewed you, right? Prior to August of 2023?
I talked to the state troopers, but I don't know if that was before or after.
That was on August 25th of 2023, which is about 3 weeks after your testimony in the other proceeding. Does that refresh your memory?
Yes, then after.
And
Yeah.
at that point in time, on
Wow.
August 25th of 2023, you'll agree with me that you were not interviewed at a police station or a state police barracks, correct?
Correct.
Or the DA's office,
barracks?
correct?
Correct.
You were interviewed by Zoom, correct?
Correct.
And you were not alone at that time in your home, correct?
I'm not sure.
Your mother, Jennifer McCabe, was present, correct?
Okay.
And she was monitoring what was going
Huh.
on in that interview, correct?
Objection.
Was that true?
I don't recall.
Okay. In any case, that too was over a year and a half after January 29th, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, I'd like to ask you some
Interesting.
questions about, oh, by the way, you've had an iPhone since you were 12 or 13 years old.
So Brian Albert Sr. was at Jen McCabe's when Jen McCabe was interviewed. And Jen McCabe is sitting with her daughter while her daughter's being interviewed on Zoom. Okay.
Correct.
And you're now how old?
20.
And no, you guys, I'm
So
not
7 or
eating
8 years
a,
would be a good estimate as to how long you've worked with iPhones.
I'm not
Correct.
eating a Mr. Beast Parts
And
protein bar.
obviously you know how an iPhone works, correct?
Correct.
You know how to reply and comment on text messages, correct?
Correct.
And
Not
you know
sponsored,
that,
but they're these.
there's a lot of tools open
decent.
to you
They're quiet.
to comment on text messages, correct?
Correct.
You can reply to a text using an icon or an emoji, right? To like or dislike something that somebody else said.
Correct.
You can laugh at it. You can love it. You can like it.
You can
correct?
thumbs up it, but
Objection.
apparently only Gen X does that, I guess, according to my Instagram
Correct.
feed.
And they make it pretty easy, right? All you need to do is put your finger or your thumb on a specific message and hold it down, and options appear, correct?
Correct.
And that's where you get the thumbs up, the thumbs down, the ha-ha, exclamation points, question mark, etc.
Correct.
And you also have other options, which is down the bottom, there's a kind of a curved arrow where if you click on that, you can forward the message.
Now I'm looking at my
reply to
phone. Is it a
specific
curved
message,
arrow?
correct?
Correct.
And on the left, there's a trash can, right?
Correct.
And what happens when you click on the trash can?
It will delete the message from your phone.
And it's your testimony that with regard to the screenshot that we saw,
I had to go
there were
look at
no
my text while he was
deleted
talking.
messages in that conversation, correct?
Yes.
However, you would agree, as you've already testified, that if a message had been deleted from a screenshot, we'd never know, right?
True.
Right, because you don't have the phone. And because you don't have the phone, you can't tell if it's been deleted. With the physical phone, you can tell if it's been deleted.
You're also familiar with the apps that are on iPhone.
I just wonder
correct?
if she,
Correct.
You have a
if they
number
weren't
of
able to get
apps
her
on
phone
your
records.
iPhone, right?
Correct.
There might be 12 or 15, I haven't counted them, but 12 or 15 maybe on your home screen, right?
Correct.
And if you swipe to the left, you get another new population of 12 or 15.
Correct.
Not bad for an old guy.
Yeah.
You use apps like Instagram.
Correct.
Amy,
Snapchat is a popular app.
Correct.
And,
Amy, the dog couldn't have eaten all the phones.
probably to your detriment, but Life 360,
Correct.
all right, that's been an app in the McCabe family for a number of years, right?
Correct. Yes.
Amy,
And
better than Covenant Eyes.
in your family anyway, and probably in a lot of families, it's mainly used for the parents to keep track of their kids, right?
Correct.
I mean, Share Location does that on an
And,
iPhone, though.
In order for Life
It has
360 to
Sheena.
work, you have to have your location services on, and somebody else has to have the app and is in the family, correct? Connected to you?
Correct.
Like a circle?
And with regard to, just going back to the messages for a minute. do you
Yeah,
know
where is
difference
the Life-
between an iMessage
Right,
and a text
Life
message?
360 data.
Yes, I believe one's blue and one's green.
Okay. The screenshots that we saw of your conversation.
She's like, we don't have no green bubbles.
You say that you had with Colin Albert, you were in blue, right?
Correct.
That means that Colin Albert also had an iPhone at the time, correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to the timestamp.
Dana Town
on
said, I'm
those
so glad I grew up in the
messages,
dark ages.
Uh,
Sames.
The conversation about I'm here,
My parents, where were you guys? Just driving around. Don't you worry about it. There was no way for them to verify it.
Gave the time 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Are you aware?
Secrets I'm taking to my grave, by the way,
how easy
chat.
it is to change that time?
No.
Are you aware that all you need to do is go from settings to general, and then there's a date and time that you can alter?
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
You know that when you set up your iPhone, you have to choose.
She didn't watch the Depp Heard trial.
Correct.
And
I didn't
you
know that
always
was a
choose
thing.
The New York time zone, because that's where Boston is, right?
Correct.
Are you aware that if you go into settings, general, and then date and time, you can change the time zone to wherever you're going?
I guess I didn't. Once I set my phone up, I have no reason to change the time.
See? And in addition to changing the time zone, you literally can choose any time that you want. You could make 1:45 a.m. to 12:10 a.m. in about 3 seconds. Did you know that?
Do you know that? Did you know that?
No.
But if I'm not accusing you of this now, but if you had changed the time on that from a screenshot, we'd have no way of knowing, correct?
I guess.
Because what a screenshot ultimately becomes is like a photo, correct?
Correct.
It's not like you can edit it, right?
I mean,
the most that you can do
incorrect.
is what we saw on the other photo that was displayed, which is kind of crossing out with a magic marker.
I mean,
somebody's face or a time, right?
Incorrect.
That would be how you'd have to alter it, right?
Incorrect.
Correct.
No, incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. 100% incorrect. Like 100% incorrect. There are so many.
I had asked you.
Yannetti, there are so many other ways
getting
that
rid of the
screenshots
old
can be
phone, getting
altered,
the
sir.
new one, if law enforcement ever asked you to, go through the phone themselves and you had said no, right?
Yes, they did not do that.
And then they never asked to do an extraction on the old phone, correct?
No.
What about the new phone that you now have that you got in December? Have the state police ever asked to do, have they ever asked to look through that phone?
They look, no, I don't think so.
You provided the screenshot that was shown to the jury today on August 25th when you talked to the state police in this case, right, of 2023?
Correct.
And
Though if
when
no one
you
asked her,
provided them that screenshot,
is that on her?
did they say, hey, by the way, can I look at your phone?
She was on Zoom.
Objection.
I'll allow that. Did they say that to you?
I don't remember.
She was on
In any
Zoom.
case, you never physically showed them your phone, right?
No.
You don't recall clicking on that text message app, the green app with the kind of white speech bubble. You didn't click on that and then click on the Colin Albert conversation and say, here it is, did you?
No.
And in addition to not asking you to see your new phone, they also did not ask you to do an extraction of your new phone, correct?
Correct.
And at some point in time, you realized that you'd have to be a witness in this case and have the unfortunate incident of having to talk to me, right?
Objection.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute on this.
Objection. The jury might have laughed at what he just said. Your Honor, he can't be likable. No, that's not the objection. I don't know what he's trying to get into with you had the unfortunate occasion of speaking to me, but we'll see what he said.
Okay, and just to wrap this up, to this day, no extraction has been done on your phone,
I
correct?
think that's clear.
Correct.
Now, when you had that Zoom interview on August
Zoom
25th,
interview.
you told the trooper that you drove Colin straight to his house after you picked him up on January 29th, and then you went straight home, correct?
That's what she
Yes,
said.
I believe.
That's what she said here.
You have previously testified back in August of 2023 that you believe you dropped
The tech
Colin
guy
Albert off
is
at
all
his
of us.
home at around 12:15, 12:20 or so.
Correct.
And when you left, by the way, you're very familiar with 34 Fairview, right?
Correct.
That's family, correct?
Correct.
Been over there many, many, many times, correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar with the neighborhood in terms of the streets that are around there, right?
Correct.
And you've lived in Canton your whole life?
Yes. Until, yeah.
When you were a baby, you were in Stoughton?
Yes.
Basically, you're a Canton girl, right?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury the route that you took home from 34 Fairview, or actually strike that, the route that you took to Colin Albert's house when you left 34 Fairview on January 29th?
I don't remember specifically, but I would believe I drove up Fairview, then, sorry, I don't know the streets.
If I suggested to you that the street closest to 34 Fairview was Cedar Crest and the one on the other side is Chapman, does that refresh your memory?
Yeah, so Chapman.
Okay, so
I
you would
believe.
have gone up and gone to Chapman and taken a right or a left?
really bad with directions.
Because you're trying to be like, I went
when I got there,
this
I
way.
went to the center of town, his house. I don't know specifically which way. I'm trying to think of it. I can't picture it.
Yes.
I mean, girl, same.
Are you familiar with Washington Street in Canton?
Yes.
Would you have wound up on Washington Street?
Yes.
All right. And you're aware that the Canton Library is on the corner of Washington and Sherman Street? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you would have passed by the library?
Yes.
All right. Now, with regard to whether you went straight home, did you, by the way, when you went home, did you stay there
Yes, I believe so.
for in the rest of the night?
Yes.
Were you still awake when your parents got home? That's what I'm curious about.
Okay, and what time do you say that you arrived at home?
I'm not sure. Before around 12:30ish.
Okay. With regard to Life 360, would you agree with me that if you go on that app and you're trying to figure out where somebody in your family is, there's and let's say you want to know if somebody's home. There's like a circle that surrounds your home, correct?
Yes.
So once you enter that circle, you know that Life 360 gives an alert that said you arrived at home. Even though you're physically not walking in the door, you're within that circle, and that's the home circle, right?
Yes.
There's like a range?
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:04 and 53 seconds, you arrived within that home circle, correct?
Correct.
And then at
So they've got the Life 360 data.
In 55 seconds on January 29th, you left that home circle, correct?
Correct.
And then on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds, you completed a 7-mile drive where your top speed was 42 miles an hour.
Oh,
Does that
God,
make
that's
sense?
awful.
Correct.
Not the driving, the amount of
And
information.
then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds as well. And what that probably means, reading between the lines, is that you entered that home circle, but then you didn't go home. You went through the home circle and completed a 7-mile drive somewhere, right?
I guess I thought I went home. I'm
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
not. I believe I went home.
Okay.
I was completing my drive at my house.
All right, but at 12:26 a.m. on January 29th, you left home again, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Did you leave home?
I don't know. I don't remember.
All right. And at 12:26 a.m. and 12 seconds, you arrived at the Canton High School, correct?
No.
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:26 and 55 seconds, you completed a 1-mile drive where your top speed was 43 miles per hour, right?
I don't believe so.
And then at 12:26 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left Canton High School and arrived at home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 28 seconds, correct?
I do not know.
What?
And then after arriving
43
home
in the
again
snow?
on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 29 seconds, you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 12:31 and 22 seconds. Did you not?
That
No.
doesn't sound right.
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 1:08 and 15 seconds, right?
I don't believe so.
And ultimately, you went through the home bubble and the Canton High School bubble, and you arrived at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 in the morning and 8 seconds.
Can I see what you're referring to?
Sure. May I
She's
approach
like,
you?
what are you talking about?
You probably don't need these, right?
No, I'm good.
He offered her readers, I would imagine, and said, you probably don't need these. Well, it seems that they have the Life 360 data. But
Okay, and to make it easy, I mean, you can read the whole thing, but where it says,
but some of the leaving so fast and then
Record
completing
16 is what I
7-mile
just asked
drives
you
at
about, but feel free to
43
read the
miles
whole
an
thing.
hour
Thank
in
you.
under a
If you would
minute.
read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Some of that doesn't make sense. She seemed surprised.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Sorry. May I approach?
Yes.
Didn't he say look up? She did. Back and forth to the
Did
high
that
school.
help refresh your memory on where you were that night?
No.
Do you still dispute that you went straight home and didn't leave there?
Objection.
Sustained.
She didn't dispute that she went straight home. She stated she went straight home, so that misstates. The phrasing of his
Finally,
question misstates the evidence.
I just asked you about arriving at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 and 8 seconds. You arrived at home, within that home bubble, on January 29th of 2022 at 1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds, correct?
What time did it say I arrived at high school?
1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds.
And what time did it say I arrived at high school?
128.
The high school was 1:28.
So less than
And
2
8
minutes.
seconds.
It wouldn't have taken me 2 minutes to go from the high school to my house. I'm
Well,
confused.
With regard to the high school was also one of the bubbles, one of the areas where you could be, right? On Life 360?
How far
No.
is the high school from the home?
Yes.
She looks confused to me, but we will see. Also, I don't know how big those bubbles are, like the range of how close you need to be to the thing. I bet it's larger than the Pokemon radius to like
Did
spin
you
a
say that
Pokestop.
on Life 360,
Pokemon.
the Canton High School is not one of the areas that you're tracked in?
What do you mean?
Not one of the
Do you remember we were talking
radiuses.
earlier about-
Oh, like put in a location like that was
Yeah, so there
home,
are
that was
multiple
high school.
locations, like, if your mother's looking for you, where are you?
Yes.
Well, you're at D&E Pizza, you're at high school, you're
Like
at,
she looks genuinely
right?
confused.
Those could be categories.
Chad,
Correct.
You've agreed
I don't
that
quibble
home
if you
was one of the
disagree.
categories.
Correct.
That's why
And
juries
having
have 12.
reviewed that, the Canton High School is also one of the categories, correct?
I believe so.
All right. And on January 29th of 2022, the last entry is that you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 1:32 in the morning and 23 seconds.
Oh, so she didn't
And that's
stop
the end of the
anywhere.
activity. Do you agree with me that that's when you finally stopped that night?
I don't recall.
If I may have a moment.
Yes.
It's odd. We're going to need more information on the Life 360 because it's like back and forth to the high school, unless the radius picks up when she's driving past the high school. And if the radius picks up when she's driving past the high school, then the 12-mile drive makes more
All right,
sense.
Mr.
But
Mallory.
it does seem she didn't just go straight home. But the jury gets to decide what's more reliable, the screenshots of the text messages that don't show the date rollover or the Life 360 data. But they haven't described Life 360 quite a lot. And if people on the jury don't have it, depending on their life experience, they might be like, the what now? The who, what? So I don't know if we're going to get into the Life 360 data more. I guess that we're going to. And once we get into the Life 360 more, I would not be surprised if that's accurate. It's a phone tracking. I would like to know how big those radiuses are. Like I would like to know how big cell phone radiuses are when we talk about pinging off of towers. So that I would be curious about.
Now, Ms. McCabe,
The court reporter was checking if she needed any more water, which is kind. This court
with
reporter
regard to,
works hard in this courtroom.
did you get rid of your prior iPhone or did you upgrade your iPhone?
She rehomed
Upgrade.
it. She rehomed it. Lolly, stop it. We use upgrading, getting rid of, and rehoming synonymously. She traded in the phone and it was gone.
And that would have been in December of 2022, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Was it sometime around Christmas?
Yeah, probably.
And that could have been a present as far as getting a new iPhone.
Did your
or
mom
upgrading-
get you a new phone
upgrading
for
your iPhone.
Christmas?
Yes.
Now, as far as any of the information that you've shown
Gift from
as far as
mom?
the screenshot, did you in any way, shape, or form alter or delete any of the content within that text message from January 28th and the 29th of with Colin out?
No.
And with reference to changing times or time zones or anything on text messages, before Mr. Yannetti asked you any of those questions, were you aware of any of those things as things that you could do with your phone?
No.
With regard to Life 360,
Yes, Chet. The phone is in a better place.
what
It's at a
knowledge do you have
farm
as far as the accuracy of
in
those
Vermont with a lake.
timestamps that are contained within that app?
Well, I'm not sure, but on the photo he showed me, it says like turn Wi-Fi on. So that like remind Allie to turn Wi-Fi on. So that could have affected the accuracy.
And that was on literally every single one of the alerts that was on that page that he showed you.
Every single one.
Now, Canton High School, do you know what street that's on?
Washington Street.
Why was your
believe-
Wi-Fi off?
Yeah.
About how far a ride is it from
Just
Canton High
curious.
School to your house?
7-8 minutes. 10, I'm not sure.
You were in the bubble of Canton High School at 1:28 in the morning. Could you have possibly been in the bubble of your home at 1:30 in the morning?
No.
And unless you were going 90 miles an hour in a snowstorm?
No.
Now, you
I think
were
he said
asked
90 miles an hour in a snowstorm.
questions about that time frame of August of 2023 when you were asked and you turned over sort of screenshots to troopers from the state police, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about previous times indicating that you weren't asked and it wasn't relevant, correct?
Correct.
Now,
That was an odd
do you know
answer.
why you were asked in August of 2023 versus any prior time period?
I'm surprised. you
Because
asked that.
Colin Albert wasn't in the house. And then it was brought up here that he was.
And brought up where?
By the defense.
And around that time of August 2023.
She's being
I
Very-
believe so, yes.
careful in how she answers that.
And with reference to relevancy, is that what you were talking about?
Correct.
And what, if anything else, you're close friends with Colin Albert, is that correct?
Correct.
What, if anything else, has your family or Colin Albert and his family undergone over
Where's
the
the?
course of
There's going to be an
10 years?
objection on that.
Objection.
No, the door's been opened. I'm allowing it.
Well, basically harassment.
Harassment by who?
Bloggers, people online.
And what, if anything, in relation to Colin Albert being in the house has occurred as far as the harassment that you're talking
Can you rephrase?
about? With reference to what you were talking about as far as the relevancy of Colin Albert being in the house at that time, what, if any, harassment was there in relation to that and in relation to Colin?
Well,
Objection.
No, go ahead. She can answer.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed he was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home. So the people are harassing him saying he was at the house when
She
it's
looks
not true.
real upset.
When you speak about harassment, what specifically type of harassment are we
Constant phone calls, emails, awful messages.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Focus on this witness, not Colin Albert at this point.
As far as
She did say
you
when
and
John
your
was
family, what, if
there.
any type of harassment have you received?
People showing up at our house, people emailing my school. Just like a lot of harassment. Can moment, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have some. Thank you.
And how long a period of time has that persisted for?
Very long time.
Thank you. I have no further.
I have nothing further.
All right, Ms. McCabe, you're all set.
I'm not surprised the defense stopped with that.
Thank you.
Next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth will call Colin Albert to the stand.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Again, I don't know when she said when John was there, if she knows John was there, if she's talking about when he was on the lawn. I have a lot of questions about that. But I heard her say when John was there. The defense did not follow up on it, probably because she was already upset and the point had been made. The door being opened about the harassment is because the defense was asking her why she never turned things over, and to explain her answer of it wasn't relevant, because that's a really odd answer that needs to be explained. And she's trying to say it wasn't relevant because the defense hadn't brought it up yet and made it more of an issue yet. And the defense has made it an issue because it seems that nobody said Colin was there. But we've heard witnesses say Colin was leaving as the adults arrived home, which is before when the prosecution believes or seems to believe at 12:30-ish, before when the black SUV is outside the house. So the black SUV being outside the house at after 12:30 or in that 12:30 range, after she picks him up, if she does pick him up around 12:10, then them saying he wasn't at the house when John was at the house, being when John was either in the house or when John was in the car outside the house at 12:30. But that's where we're getting some of these cross signals. I'm not sure what I believe at this point of when did Colin leave, because people were saying Colin was coming in or coming out of the door as they were coming in. And her text messages say she picked him up sometime after, 12:10, 12:15, though his parents both said he got home at 12:10 on the dot. And that's not possibly true given everything that we've seen. So we will continue to see what unfolds. But Miguelina, will we let the app know that Colin Albert is on the stand this afternoon, please? This is going to be witness 30. What is it? Witness 35, 36, 37. Witness 37. Let's go. That is the microphone making noise.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
This is going to be probably the rest of the day
How are you?
and
Would
tomorrow.
you please state your name and spell your last name?
Colin Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
My whole life.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton with?
I live with my mother, my father, and my two brothers,
And your mother and your father, what are their names?
Julie and Chris Albert.
And your brothers, what are their names?
Chris and Dylan Albert.
And as far as within the age of you and your two brothers, where do you fall in that?
I am the middle child.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 20 years old.
What do you need, George?
And do you work? Do you go to school?
I go to school at Bridgewater State.
And what year are you in?
I am going into my junior year.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th into January 29th, 2022. Recall those days?
Yes.
Do you recall what days of the week they were?
I do not.
Do you recall whether it was a weekday, weekend?
Weekend.
And turning your attention to the evening of January 28th, do you recall where you went that night?
Yes, I do.
And just to be clear, around that time, were you in college? Were you in high school? What grade were you in?
I was a senior in high school.
So end of January, you would have been about 4 months away or so from graduation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, where did you, at some point, did you leave your home and go out?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall about what time it was that you went out?
I do not remember.
Do you recall whether
George.
it was light or dark when you went out?
It was dark.
And where did you, upon leaving your house, where did you go?
I went to one of my buddy's houses.
And that buddy, what was his?
Mike.
And
Mike,
where did
Mike.
Mike live in relation to you?
Sorry.
Can you rephrase
That's
that?
an old joke for the new law
Does Mike
nerds.
live in Canton as well?
Yes, he does.
And about how far is it from your house to Mike's house?
About like 7-8 minutes.
And when you got to Mike's house, was it just you and Mike, or who, if anyone else, was there?
I do not remember who was there.
Was there more than just the two of you?
Yes.
And generally speaking, when you got to Mike's house, what is it that?
For those of you that are new, George is my cat. Well, one of the cats.
I do not remember.
Now, as far as how you got from your house to Mike's house, do you recall how you got there?
No, I do not remember.
Let me ask you this. Did you walk? Did you drive? Did you get a ride?
I got a ride.
Do you recall who you got a ride from?
No.
And when you, do you recall, let me ask you this. As far as that particular night that you went out, did you drink any alcoholic beverages while you were out?
Yes.
And did you drink any of those at Mike's house?
Yes.
And do you recall generally what you were drinking that night?
Bud Light.
And when you were at Mike's house on that particular evening, do you recall about how long you were there for?
A few hours.
And do you recall how much you had to drink while you were at Mike's house?
I do not remember.
And so in reference to you going out and going over Mike's house and having some beers over there, is that why you didn't drive?
Yes.
Chat. In the
You
U.S.,
got
the
a ride
drinking
from
age is
someone over
21.
Mike's house, you spent some hours there.
He was
and you
underage
recall where
drinking.
you went from there.
I went to my uncle's house.
The adults were drinking and driving.
Fair to say you have a relatively large extended family within Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when you say you went to your uncle's house, which uncle's house did you go to?
My Uncle Brian.
And that would be same last name as yourself, so Brian Albert.
Yes.
And how is he your uncle? Sort of how is he related?
Wait. Oh.
He is my father's brother.
And why did you
say
go
hi to the
your
chat
uncle's
if you're
house?
going to be distracting?
It was
Say
my
hi.
cousin Brian's birthday, so I went over to celebrate for a little bit with him.
And so that would be Brian Albert Jr., is that right?
Sir.
Do you know how old your cousin
You're
Brian Albert
drooling.
Jr. was
Okay.
turning on that night?
I do not know.
When do you recall how you got from Mike's house to your uncle's house?
I believe Allison McCabe.
And do you know the address?
Allie
as
took
far
you-
as your uncle's house?
34 Fairview Road.
So Allie
Is that
dropped you
somewhere in
off
your family's house? Is that
and
somewhere
then
you've
picked
been
you up?
before?
Yes.
She didn't say
And
that.
so your memory is that Allie McCabe gave you a ride from Mike's house to the house on Fairview?
From what I remember, yes.
Now, Allie McCabe, as far as who is that to you? Or
'Cause that's not what
any
she
kind of
said.
Relationship you have with Allie McCabe?
It is my cousin's cousin. So not technically my cousin, but we're close and like we do family events and stuff like that together.
And you and Miss McCabe, are you in the same grade?
Yes.
And how long have you known each
My whole entire life.
other?
They're the same age.
So not blood related, but someone that you see at family events.
Yes.
And someone that was in the same grade and went to the same school as you.
Correct.
And that school, which school did you go to at that time?
Canton High School.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived at the house on Fairview?
Between 10:30 and 11 at night.
And did you have at that time any kind of curfew or time that you had to be home from your parents?
Usually around like right around before midnight.
And so was it like a hard fast, like 12 o'clock, if you're not here, you're grounded, or was it sort of around that time?
Just around
Nobody
midnight.
seems to be all that bothered by people's
And
behavior.
so after you
Nobody's getting grounded.
arrive there, you go into the house, is that right?
Yes.
And the house at 34 Fairview has a couple of different ways to get in the house in the front, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you recall which way that you went in that evening?
The side door near the garage.
And when you come into the house, where did you go within the house?
No minors in possession. They're all inside homes. Can adults be charged for providing alcohol to minors? That's a whole separate conversation. But no minors in possession because they're not out and about. They're all inside homes. But the conversation about parents being charged for providing alcohol to minors can vary jurisdiction by jurisdiction. Also, he goes over to his uncle's house, who's a Boston police officer, and is drinking over there. It's just.
What room did you go into?
The living room.
And then from the living room, where else did you go within the house?
Like the kitchen area.
And within the kitchen area of the house, who, if anyone else, was present in the kitchen?
From what I remember, my cousin Brian, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson, and Catherine Duty, from what I remember that night.
Is it possible there were other people there that you just don't recall?
Yes.
And where were they situated, sort of in the kitchen dining room?
Okay, George.
Like sitting around the kitchen table, I would say.
Now, after you arrived there, when you arrived there, what is it that they were doing when you walked in?
Just listening to music and having a couple of drinks.
And you come in, you greet people, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the other people that you talked about, as far as beyond your cousin Brian Albert Jr., did you know those other people?
I knew of them. I wasn't friends with them or anything.
Fair to say they were older than you were, is that correct?
Correct.
So like Miss Levinson would have been older than you by at least a few years at that point.
Yes.
And the same with reference to, I believe you said Miss Fabiano and Miss Duty, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, when you arrive at the house, did you have any other drinks once you got there?
Yes.
And do you recall what, if anything, you drank once you got there?
Bud Light.
The same as you were having before?
Correct.
You know how many that you had while you were at 34 Fairview?
I do not remember.
And over the course of the evening, whether it was at Mike's house or in between, or when you got to 34 Fairview, did you feel yourself as far as like overly intoxicated or drunk or anything like that?
No.
And as far as the other people that you observed at the house that night, does anybody stick out to you as being overly intoxicated or fall down drunk or anything like that?
No.
Now, with reference to when you came into the house, you mentioned there was music playing. How would you describe sort of the general mood within the house?
It was happy. It was, yeah.
Now, as far as that area where you first observed the people around the table in the kitchen dining room area when you came in, did you ever see anybody else go anywhere else in the house?
Not that I remember.
Did you yourself go anywhere else in the house?
No.
At any point in time in the evening while you were there, did you go upstairs or downstairs in the basement or out in the backyard or anywhere else besides the kitchen dining room area?
No.
Beyond maybe the restroom at some point?
Yeah. Other than that, no.
And about how long were you at your uncle's house that night to celebrate your cousin's birthday?
Probably around like an hour and a half.
And so about what time would it have been that you left?
12:10.
And with respect,
For those asking in the chat why the testimony of Colin Albert is so important in this trial, there has been nothing to tie his importance to the home or not to the home. So far, much has been made over when his parents believe he got home. Much has been made over the fact that he was walking out as people were walking in. Much has been made over the fact that people did not mention he was at the house after people came back from the waterfall. But it's not in evidence at this point it's not argued in opening at this at all, why it matters. So will that come up again? I don't know. But yes, he said 12:10, just exactly like his parents did. So I hope with Cross it will become more obvious.
Who, if anyone, did you contact to facilitate?
Rephrase.
Let me ask it in a much easier, better way. Okay. As far as your plans were concerned, as far as leaving the house, who, if anyone, did you reach out to get a ride from the house?
My friend Allison McCabe.
And how did you reach out to her?
I texted her.
And do you recall whether or not you had any sort of other communication? Well, let me step back and ask it this way. At that point in time, in January of 2022, you had Ms. McCabe's information saved as a contact in your phone, is that correct?
Correct.
And on prior occasions, had you had a chance to, call that number from your cell phone?
The judge is swinging her glasses.
Correct.
And when you called that number, who, if anyone, answered the phone?
Allie.
I wonder if
Now,
the
with
jurors can see that.
respect to text communications, had you had text communications with that contact in your phone as Allie McCabe prior to that date of January 28th?
Yes.
And when you had those conversations, did you then also have subsequent sort of in-person conversations with Allie McCabe as well?
Yes.
And during those in-person conversations, was there any reference or anything talked about content that had been previously sent and communicated via text?
No.
He's establishing the foundation for how he knows who he's texting with.
So you would have text communications with the person you put in as a contact as Allie McCabe, correct?
Yes.
And then subsequent to having those text communications, you would then speak to her either in person or over the phone, correct?
Objection.
The objection sustained. Watch the form of your questions.
Yeah.
Following
Finally.
those text communications with the person that you had input in your phone, what, if any, verbal conversations would you have in reference to the content of the text?
I'm not sure what you're asking. But
Did you talk to her in person about something you had talked to her about in text?
no.
Now, with reference,
Lolly's trying to lay a foundation. He has no
on
idea
that
what Lolly's
specific date
talking
of
about.
January 28th,
And most
had-
witnesses try to work with Lolly, and he's like, what? I'm kind of here for it. He's like, what are you talking about? Because again, the questions are bad. So I'm not surprised. He's just like, huh? No. What? Lolly's trying to lay foundation.
you with
So,
text communication-
Lolly, you're gonna get what you're gonna get on that.
From what I remember, yeah.
And were there other means by which you would typically communicate with her?
If she wasn't answering a text, I'd give her a call. Yeah.
And were there apps or anything like that on your phone that you would communicate with her as well?
Snapchat sometimes.
Now, with respect to Snapchat and your family, specifically your cousins, what, if any, sort of group Snapchat chains were there with respect to your family?
Yes.
And specifically, who were those sort of group Snapchat chains? Who was included within it?
I have a Snapchat group chat with my cousins.
And you have cousins on basically your father's side and your mother's side, correct?
Not on my mother's side, no.
Not in
No
the
cousins on your mother's side?
No.
he's
And with respect to the cousins on
Lolly, he's talking about the group chat, Lolly, that there's no cousins from his mother's side in the group chat. You're talking about in life, I think. So I don't know if he actually has no cousins on his mother's side or he has no Snapchat group chats with the cousins on his mother's side, because Lolly's not making it clear at all. So that's where this kid is confused. And I don't think Lolly's picking up where the confusion is so he can clear up where the confusion is. But I don't know how you leave the jury anything other than confused,
your father's side,
which is
would it be all of your
real
cousins
bad
who
when
were
you're the
included in that?
prosecutor.
Not all of them, no.
And so who of your cousins would be included on those kind of group Snapchat chains?
My older brother, Chris, my younger brother, Dylan, my cousin, Kevin, Brian, Brendan, Caitlin, Kayla, and I believe that is it.
And if you recall, was there any communication on that group Snapchat chain in regard to Brian Jr.'s birthday on that date of January 28th to 29th?
No, not that I remember.
Now, with respect, so you reach out to Ms. McCabe via text, is that correct?
Yes.
And she agrees to pick you up?
Yes.
And at some point, are you made aware that she's at the home?
Yes.
And how is it that she makes you aware that she's at the home?
I got a text message from her that says I'm here.
And at any point in time while you were in the home, did Ms. McCabe come inside the home?
No.
And that's how I would tie
And so
together
after you
how he
received that
knows
text message from Ms. McCabe,
that his
did you
text
respond?
from Allie or from Allie.
Yes.
She said here, I walked out, she was there.
Come in.
And from that communication, after you sent that, about how long was it between the time that you sent that and the time that you came out?
Between 30 seconds and a minute, I'd say.
And when you came out of the house, do you recall which door you came out at that point?
The side door next to the garage.
And when you came out that door, who, if anyone, did you encounter as you were coming out?
As I was walking out, I saw my Uncle Brian and my Aunt Nicole.
And you were going out, and what were they doing?
They were coming in.
And in addition to your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, was there anybody else that you recall that was with them when they came into the house?
No, not that I remember.
And what, if any, exchange did you have with your uncle and your aunt as you were going out and they were coming in?
I just said, I'm going home. My mom wants me home. I love you guys. Bye.
How'd you know your mom wanted you home? I thought she was home with a
You went
migraine.
outside of the house, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you see Ms. McCabe outside?
Yes.
And where was she where was her vehicle in relation to the house?
In the driveway.
Now, do you recall what type of vehicle Ms. McCabe was driving on that particular night or had at that time?
I believe it was the blue Ford that they had.
And was that a sedan? Was that an SUV? What type of vehicle?
A sedan.
And so you come out, that's in the driveway, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether or not it was parked on the left side or the right side of the driveway?
I do not remember.
I thought they all said
And,
they had
you get
SUVs.
you get into the vehicle. Which part of the vehicle did you get into?
That I do not remember.
Front seat, passenger side. Does that sound right?
Could have been that, yeah.
Well, would you have
Recall
gotten
whether
into
or
the
not there was
back
anybody else
seat?
in the vehicle at the time that you got in?
I do not remember that.
Do you regularly
Recall
climb
whether
into
or
the
not
back seat when
there was
somebody picks you
anybody else
up?
in the vehicle at the time that she had dropped you off at that location?
I do not remember that either.
Now, as far as the coming outside of the house, did you take note of anything as far as the weather or what was going on with that when you came outside?
Pretty sure it just started snowing at that time, around that time.
So the snow had just begun. Do you recall whether or not it was sticking or accumulating on the ground at that time?
I do not remember, no.
Now, you get into the car and where did you go?
She drove me right home.
So no stops along the way, just straight from Fairview to your house.
Correct.
But you don't know
How
what side of
long
the car you
is-
got
How
into.
long a drive is it?
Anywhere between 5-10 minutes.
Now, as you were outside of the house, walking to the car, and after the car sort of backs out of the driveway and leaves, did you observe anything abnormal or unusual outside of your uncle's house that night?
No,
Did you observe any other cars outside at that time?
not that I remember.
Now, Allie has a mother and a father, and you're familiar with them, is that correct?
Correct.
And what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt.
Same last name as McCabe.
Yes.
And are you familiar with what types of vehicles they have?
Yes.
And when you came out of the house and got into Allie's Ford sedan, did you see any vehicle?
Oh, Allie's Ford sedan. I was confused about whose Ford sedan it was.
No.
That's on me.
And so you drive home and you go to your house.
I thought he was talking about
without
Brian
the
and
address,
Nicole arriving.
Whereabouts within the town of Canton were you living at that point?
It's right in the center of Canton near the Seasons gas station.
And is that a
Is it near the
single-family
library?
house or a multifamily house, or what is
It is a condominium.
it? And when Ms. McCabe pulls in and parks, you get out, correct?
Yes.
And so in order to get into the building, in order to get into your home, how is it that you get into your home when you get to the condo?
There's a door around back that I go into, and I gotta either have a key or they buzz me in, but I usually have a key, and I gotta go up 3 flights of stairs, and then we're at the top level in the condominium.
And so you have to get sort of into the building before you can get into your own unit.
Correct.
And did you notice whether or not Ms. McCabe was still there as you were, excuse me, did you notice whether or not Ms. McCabe was still out there parked when you opened the door with the key?
That I do not remember.
And you get into the condo, or you get into your home, and who, if anyone, was living with you at that time?
My parents and my little brother
Your older brother, where was he?
in San Diego.
He was in the service, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as your brother, your little brother, and your father and your mother, were they home when you got home?
Yes.
And how do you know?
Because I remember my parents being up in their bedroom that night.
Is there any sort
What's that
of,
have to do with your siblings
rule
being
or
home?
sort of, for lack of a better term, like protocol as far as when you come home, where do you go sort of first thing when you walk in?
I always tell my mom and my dad that I'm home, and usually go up to their bedroom, give them a hug goodnight, tell them I love them, and then go down to bed.
And did you do that on that occasion?
Yes.
So sort of immediately when you come home, you go right up to your parents' room?
Yes.
And when you got up to your parents' room on that particular evening, was both your mother and your father in their room?
Correct.
And you had that sort of exchange that you described before?
Yes.
And so your bedroom is then located downstairs from where your parents' bedroom is?
Yes.
And if you know about what time was it that you came into the house?
I want to say around 12:20.
And fair to say this is 2.5 years ago, and you weren't exactly looking at your watch when you came in, is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, he knows the
And
timelines
as far
are
as being home or having that
wild.
curfew around midnight or so, did you get in trouble for being late that night?
No.
Objection.
I'll sustain the objection. I'll strike that.
You're going to make those faces at the defense this whole time. Cross is going to go
No.
real well, sir. That's ill-advised.
Mr. Albert, the
Yeah,
place that you were living
that's
at
not
that
gonna go
point,
well.
the condo, how long had you been living
That I do not remember.
there? Did you live somewhere else in Canton prior to?
Yes.
Where was it that you lived?
7 Meadows Ave.
And how long did you live at 7 Meadows?
My whole entire life before moving to that condo.
And so all I'm sort of trying to ascertain here is, so from the time of January 28, 29, 2022, was it a long time, short time, months, weeks, years? How long had you been living at the condo?
Short time, I'd say a couple months.
And so prior to that couple of months, you had lived your whole life at 7 Meadows Ave, correct?
Correct.
And that was a single-family house, is that correct?
Yes.
And with respect to living on Meadows Ave, did you know people that lived on your street growing up?
Yes.
Your neighbors?
And at some point while you were living there, did you come to know someone by the name of John O'Keefe?
Yes.
And how did you know Mr. O'Keefe?
He lived at the top of our street.
So how many houses, if you know, were sort of in between your house and Mr. O'Keefe's?
Oh, the
2.
lawn thing.
And you know
It's
how
gonna
long
come back
that
up.
Mr. O'Keefe had been living on that street?
His parents were
I
asked
do
about
not
it
know.
quite a lot.
And how did you know him, sort of, if you could describe sort of your relationship with your neighbor, Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew him because I knew that my parents were friendly with him. And I knew he lived at the top of our street. That's how I knew him.
And were you aware who, if anyone, lived at the house with Mr. O'Keefe?
I know his 2 kids that he brought in, adopted, lived there, and I'm not sure who else.
And that would have been his niece and his nephew that he adopted, correct?
Correct.
And where were they in relation to you as far as ages?
What?
A lot younger. I don't know the exact age difference, but
So if you were in high school, they would have been some grade far below.
yes.
Now, as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, your neighbor,
Covered in cat floof.
about how often would it be that you would see him?
Not often. I'd drive by every now and then. He'd be outside and I would wave. He'd wave back. That was pretty much it.
And during the time that you lived on Meadows Ave, or a couple months subsequent to that, is there ever any animosity or any sort of arguments or anything that you would ever had with Mr. O'Keefe?
Never.
And how would you describe Mr. O'Keefe from your perspective, as far as how would you describe him as a person?
A nice guy, a good guy.
Now, with respect to, if I could bring you back to Fairview Road on January 28th and 29th of 2022. Obviously, you were familiar with Mr. O'Keefe at that point.
Yes.
And at any point in time that you were in that home, did you see Mr. O'Keefe inside the home?
No.
At any point in time that you were outside of the home, going in, coming out, at any point
I mean,
in
I'm
time
kind of
did you see
surprised he
Mr.
didn't say absolutely
No.
not,
At
honestly.
any point in time in the evening of January 28th into January 29th, 2022, did you see Mr. O'Keefe anywhere?
No.
And at that time, at end of January 2022, were you aware of, or did you know anybody by the name of Karen?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
I knew that she dated Mr. O'Keefe.
How did you know that?
And had you had any sort of prior interactions with Miss Reed prior to January 28th?
Not that I remember, no.
Then how did you know they were dating?
Not really.
As far as any interactions, would that be just sort of driving by the house?
Yeah. Maybe drive by, wave. That was about it.
Well, now, hi, George. George is mad because my snacks are blocking his bird watching spot. I don't know how he knew his neighbor
Yes.
had a girlfriend.
Now, as far as that sort of reaching out to Ms. McCabe on that particular evening, was that something that you had done before?
Yeah.
Is that something that sort of you and your friend group did together, as far as if somebody was out and driving around and somebody else was maybe drinking somewhere, they could contact them for a ride?
Yes, correct.
That was as opposed to somebody drinking and then getting behind the wheel and driving, correct?
Exactly.
I mean, well, why weren't they picking up the adults too? If all the teens
No,
are just
sir.
driving everybody around, maybe pick up the adults. Just a thought.
At some point in July of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with any troopers from the state police in regard to that evening of January 28th, 29th?
Say the date again.
Some point in July of 2023, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
No.
At some point subsequent to that date of January 28th, 29th, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
Yes.
And you were asked questions and you answered them, is that correct?
Correct.
And following that conversation or interview that you had with troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide them with reference to your phone?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry.
When was
At
this?
some point, did you provide them with a screenshot of a text communication between yourself and Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
And was that something that you took a screenshot on your own phone and then were able to then provide it to them?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Showing you a document, just ask you to look at it and then look up when you're finished. And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
My text messages between Allie that night.
And what's contained on that, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you recall as far as the text messages or what was on your phone as far as what you took a screenshot of?
It'll be interesting to
of the
see this
text
from the
messages
other side.
between you and Allison McCabe that night.
Yes, sir.
May I approach again, Your Honor? Yes. I'm Walter Seek to introduce in a minute.
Mr. Jackson? Sure.
I wonder if they're going to voir dire on these text messages as well. Oh, sorry, chat. I should have insmollened myself.
No objection. Thank you.
All right. And jurors, remember the instruction I gave you about
Things
the
are
text
redacted
messages.
out of the top and bottom of the text messages for what's going into evidence, because you could see him comparing it with his discovery. And there's like a black bar on the top and the bottom. So
Okay.
I'm zooming to them asking about the text messages. So we didn't have to wait for the court reporter to sticker things. So there's a date on the top of this
Is that what you have before you?
from Allie.
Yes.
And the contact that's listed at the top states out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that how you had Ms. McCabe programmed into your phone?
Correct.
And from this, there's two sets of communications, one contained in blue bubbles and one contained in non-blue bubbles, correct?
Yes.
If you know the blue bubbles, is that you or is that Ms. McCabe or who's?
That's me.
So the other side would be Ms. McCabe, is that correct?
Correct.
There's also times that are stamped or associated with these text bubbles and with the text communications from Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
If I could direct your attention, and maybe easier if you're looking at the paper in front of you, but just sort of starting from the top, January 28, 2022, if you could read for the jury what the content is, what the time is, and indicate who is communicating.
At 11:54, I texted Allie and said, "You can get me now, period." At 11:54, I texted her again and said, "If easier." At 11:55, Allie texted me back and said, "Okay, I am driving people home now." At 11:55, I said, "Word." And then at 11:55, I said, "Get me after." At 11:55, Allie wrote back, "KK." And then at 12:10 a.m., Allie wrote, "Here." And at 12:10 a.m., I wrote back, "Okay."
It's coming, you can take that. And Your Honor, may I approach this to retrieve the exhibit?
Yes.
On the other one, there was no bubble around his messages. I don't
So
know
with
why,
respect to
but the messages look odd to me.
that last communication that you sent as far as okay,
They've
how
got to be
long
almost
after
done for the
that,
day because they're
message
collecting the
was
press
sent, did you then go out to
badges.
the car where Allie was?
Right after, I'd say around 30 seconds.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
But on the other side,
Sir, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibits 82 and 83. Again, I just asked you to take a look.
I'd be interested to see the paper exhibits because I'd be interested to see the physical exhibits. But yes, he couldn't be home at 12:10.
Do you recognize those, sir?
Yep.
And what do you
Either
recognize
way.
those?
Say that again.
What is in those photos?
A picture of me and my aunt and a picture of me by myself.
And do you recall sort of when those photographs were taken?
Yes, February 11th.
And why is it that you recall that, well, let me ask you this. As far as February 11th was concerned, where were you that evening?
I was at my uncle's house.
And why were you at your uncle's house on that evening?
My cousin was coming home for leave from the Marine Corps, so we had a little gathering for him.
And just to be clear, when you say your uncle, you're talking about your uncle Brian Albert again?
Correct.
Your cousin that was coming home from the Marines, what's his name?
Jack Albert.
And so on that evening, you were over that house, is that correct?
Correct.
And the first picture in exhibit, I believe it's 82, is that correct? You and your aunt Nicole?
Correct.
And what's contained on there, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of sort of what you looked like as far as your arms, your hands, your face, all of those things on that date of February 11th?
Correct.
And the second photograph is, again, you by yourself, is that correct?
Correct.
And from that photograph, again, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
And from the second photograph in, if you know, where was that taken within the home of your own?
In the library at 34 Fairview.
And again, that library or any of the other rooms within the house beyond the kitchen, the dining room, or possibly the restroom, did you go into any other areas of the house on that night of January 28th into January 29th?
No.
I approach this retriever.
Yes.
And Chad, I agree with you. The photos of the text look odd. The no bubble around the opposite side of the conversation looks odd. I don't have the paper copies, so I'm not going to speculate beyond that because what we're looking at is whatever's been put up at the screen, which should be clearer because it's digital, but then the camera put on the screen, but it looks odd. And then there's no date turnover after midnight, which also seems strange. So the texts look weird.
Albert, just one last question. When it came to your arrival at 34 Fairview Road on the evening of, or the early morning of January 29th, when you were leaving, beyond your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, did you see anybody else older than yourself or anybody else related to that group come into the house that evening?
No.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Mr. Jackson, do you want to begin or wait until the morning?
Your Honor, it probably makes more sense to wait till tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Cross-examination will be tomorrow.
Mr. Albert, I'm going to wait until the jurors leave, and then you can follow them.
Okay.
All right, jurors, I do have to caution you, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Do not do any
Quiet,
independent
please.
research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us
The
know.
bailiff having to yell at
Tomorrow's a tough day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
the audience is not good. And yes, Allie's testimony said that there were gray bubbles around the text, which is why I say I can't tell from here. It could just be that they are blown out on the screen. The date is also a thing. But it's interesting to me that he's seen those texts at 12:10. He couldn't have been home at 12:10. So we'll see. I imagine there has to be an expert at some point. I mean, there has to be someone to deal with all of the
Please be seated. Court's back in session.
All right.
tech.
Do you need me for anything? Any evidentiary issues, any exhibits that we need to go through to avoid sidebar time tomorrow?
Not for the Commonwealth, Your Honor, no.
Not on behalf of Mr. Reed.
Okay. We will start at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Court, all rise.
It looks like the court was looking at the DA when she said that. I wonder if he was running late. Or if that was just a reminder. But court will start at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a half day at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So today has been a lot of a day. I'm tired. Chad, are you tired? Are we all tired? Oh gosh. We will see what happens tomorrow. All right, let me do a quick recap as best I can, and then we will get to your questions. So let's do that, shall we? Let me make sure I have nothing. I missed an appointment yesterday afternoon, which is not shocking to me. I don't think I have anything remaining today. I don't. Oh, I do need to remind you though. First, the tumblers are on the Lawnard shop. They are in stock, so they ship pretty quickly. So if you are interested, these are still on sale till May 24th. So lawnardshop.com, they are matte where it says Lawnard. This is, they are custom cut. So, or die cast or whatever you call it. But these are custom cut Lawnard tumblers, but this will be a little bit more matte. Why? Because I didn't want it to get fingerprinty. Emily, tell me you're particular about your cups without telling me you're particular about your cups. I didn't want it to get fingerprinty. Those are still on discount for the birthday sale with the Pride merch and all the rest of it that has been launched. I have cat glitter all over me. So that will all be up at the Lawnard shop at lawnardshop.com. So if you guys are interested, lawnerdshop.com will get you there. If you have the app, it is linked in the app. We do have international shipping, so you can go to the store and check that out. There are very, very few places that we don't ship to. Very few, but it is most places. So you guys can go and check there. All right, let's try to do a roundup. Just a reminder for those of you that are new here, 2 things. 1, the Lawnerd app, we will keep you in the loop. We messaged today when no, that's not Brian Albert. When Colin Albert took the stand, we will message you as key witnesses in this case. Take the stand so that you know this is a long trial. Life is busy. It is Maycember. Everyone has a lot to do, but I want you to know, and I want you to know when the witnesses you want to see are on the stand, so you can either make a plan to rewatch, make a plan to watch the summaries on the Quick Bits channel, or make a plan to tune in. And then, I mean, you've still made us the #1 place to watch trials, but if you tune out for a little bit of lolly, I understand. I do not fault you for it. I completely understand if you watch the recaps that Runkle of the Bailey is doing, or that Lawyer You Know is doing, where they kind of zoom through some of it and are like, this 2 minutes seems to be the main point of this witness testimony. This 2 minutes seems to be the main point of that witness testimony. I completely understand the need to take care of yourself in all of this. There are times when I am also a little jealous, I got to be honest, of the ability to zoom coverage of some of those testimonies, because I was like, I am going to watch all of this. But there are times when I watch Ian's coverage, I find, who else is doing recaps? I've been watching Ian's and Peter's. I know other people are doing them. I think Natalie Lawyer Chick is popping in and out on the case. Legal Bites does recaps and is doing streaming coverage. So there's a lot of places to find recaps. But there are times, because I enjoy different snark in different ways and different takes, and I am watching coverage of people who are sticking to what's going on in court and not everything else that is known, because then I'm trying to not run across it in any fashion. So I'm following those, but there's times that it's hard, because I find that I will pick up things the second watch round. I think some of that is because I'm reading chat and streaming and processing what they're saying. So some of it I will catch more, but I also remember the jury doesn't have that, but also the jury is not working on split attention. Their job is to sit there and listen. So there's times I feel like I have a little bit of an advantage getting to hear what other people think were key parts of evidence. Like I caught on, I think it was either Peter or Runkle's recap of the motion to excuse Aidan Kearney from the trial, that there was actually an exception to a stay away order. I hadn't caught that the first time I heard it, because I was like, wait, what is happening? But that there were stay away orders, but that another judge had ruled there was an exception to the stay away order to allow him to be in court when witnesses were testifying. And I hadn't caught that the first time. So I'm just like, interesting. So with all of that, let me try to do a recap of the end of the day, as I've acquired new cat hair. George is only interested in hanging out with me because my teen is not home. The second my teen arrives home, George is gone. He's like, my kid is home. I am just the substitute human that he makes do with when my teen is at school. I do not kid myself about that at all. We are at the end of day 12 of the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. And though it has been a full day, at the end of the day, we finished testimony from Allison McCabe, who picked up Colin Albert from 34 Fairview, and then began the testimony of Colin Albert. Both of them have now introduced text messages between the two of them from the night of January 28th, between the two of them, showing arrangements for Allie to go and pick up Colin at 34 Fairview, and saying like, here, okay, around 12:10 a.m. Where we are watching those get put up on the screen in court and then zoomed in on with a camera, the texts don't look like they have a bubble around them. They said in court that they do. We haven't seen, of course, the paper copies of those. The jury will get to decide what weight to give those text messages and if they believe that they are true. But there is also no date when it clicks over from like 11:55, 11:57 into 12:10 a.m. There's no new dateline, which also looks odd. So I don't know what I think of the text messages yet. We haven't even gotten into forensics. What we do know is that law enforcement never really asked. In the testimony of Allie McCabe, the court found that the defense had opened the door for her to talk about some of the harassment she has received. I know that they approached this in motions in limine, and both parties had agreed. These were the only motions in limine I watched because I thought it was so odd that both parties agreed, and then the judge was like, no, I don't agree. Both parties had agreed that they were not going to ask witnesses about harassment, witness intimidation, and things like that. But the judge said, I'm not going to tie these witnesses' hands. If the doors are open, then it can be asked about. Allison had given an odd answer when she was asked why she hadn't turned over text messages sooner. And the defense pressed her really hard. Well, you never turned this over. And she said, well, it wasn't relevant. No one had, she said it oddly, but no one had said that Colin was in the house. I'm actually going to look at my notes real quick because, it was odd the way she said it. Colin had not been introduced as being in the house at that time. So it seemed that she knew what other people were saying, knew that other people hadn't told anyone that Colin had been there. And then she said, I'm going to my notes to make sure I get it exactly correct. She said it wasn't relevant because Colin wasn't there when John was there. So the jury's going to take away what they will from that. Does that mean when John was in the car with the defendant out front at after 12:30 in the morning? Does that mean that she believes that John was in the house? The jury gets to decide what, if anything, yes, I did that on purpose, that sentence means. But she said when John was there. So the court allowed her to explain why she didn't think it was relevant and why she was explaining that, and let her get into the harassment. She said she and her bestie, though not cousin, Colin, had been suffering. The court limited it and said, no, this not as to Colin, as to this witness. And she talked about it briefly and took a break as she got emotional in talking about that. And then that was very quickly the end. The defense didn't press her more on that. And that was the end of her testimony before we got into Colin Albert's testimony and those text messages and when he went home or when he didn't. He said he was driven directly home, but he also said he doesn't remember what side of the car he got into when he came out. He said he came out the side door, not the front door. Others testified, including Nicole and Brian Albert, that they saw Colin leaving their home as they were coming in through the front door. So are those natural discrepancies in memories because everyone had been drinking? Or is it more than that? I don't know yet. So as we continue to get into this case, again, more questions than answers still on day 12. Eventually, we're going to have to get into some tech witnesses to talk about what these phones are doing, because we got into a little bit of Allie McCabe's Life 360 and where she was driving to and from and where, about, and when, and that she arrived home at 1:30 a.m. So did she arrive home at 1:30 a.m. or did she arrive home at 12:30 a.m.? Because that would change when she drops off Colin Albert, or could change when she dropped off Colin Albert substantially. So I hope we get more into that, because I've got a lot of questions about it, and I bet you do too. Emily, can you answer this and this and this and that? No, there's a lot. There's a lot of questions I have. So with all of that, There are more questions to come on day 13, and we will begin the cross-examination of Colin Albert. Let's get to your questions because I know you've got them. Oh, chat, I saw it in the chat. I forgot to point out that then there were no texts at all between January 28th, 29th and like February, where she says on Zoom. Yeah, there's a giant gap in those text messages, which is really interesting, but nobody asked her for them. And her phone was never downloaded or extracted or shown because it doesn't seem it was actually investigated. And so, we will see. The jury's going to have to decide what to make of all of this with just the information we have in court. So with just the information we have in court, what does the jury make of all of this? Is the jury sitting there going, why are we talking about this still? Why is this in controversy? Maybe. Because I think a lot of you are going, why is this in controversy? Why are we still talking about this? Why do these times matter so much? And it's hard because we don't have the prosecution's theory of the case to bump those against. Like, why do these times matter? I don't know. We don't know exactly when the prosecution thinks that John O'Keefe was hit. So how can we say, oh, these times matter because of that? It's hard other than saying there are so many discrepancies here. I don't even know what the timeline is. That's kind of what I'm left with is, I don't even know. I don't know. There's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, which is hard, right? I'm so frustrated. 12 days ago, 175 years ago and less gray hairs, I really was hoping, go watch how optimistic I was. I was really hoping that we would understand from the prosecutor's opening statement what their theory of the case was. And I am so frustrated 12 days in that we have, I don't think, much of a clear idea of when they think something happened to John O'Keefe. I have a lot of cell phones that have gotten upgraded and rehomed. I've got some really weird text messages. we've got mystery butt dials and phone calls that weren't answered, even though the phone records say they're answered and nobody says they're answered. But we still don't know what the fuck happened to the victim other than something. It's so frustrating. It feels like the prosecution is over trying to respond to what the defense has said and not actually focus on their case. And I'm waiting to see if that shifts. And I don't know if it will. There were times in Depp v. Heard, especially after that. Remember that 1 week break and there were like multiple PR statements on Twitter. And during that case, I was looking at what was going on ancillary to the case with the PR teams and stuff. I'm not doing any of that this case. I'm like, just la, 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 la. I want to see what happens in court and nothing else. But we were looking at all the battles between the PR folks because it became such a big deal during Depp v. Heard. And after the break, it felt like Elaine particularly was asking questions to answer the internet. And it was like, this is so odd. You're not talking about what's going on in court. Like, you're trying to answer Milani making a TikTok video about it. Why are we so off course here? And it's at times here, it's feeling the same way. It's like, Lolly, you're not answering a question anyone asked. Like, what everyone is asking, what all of you are asking is, what happened to the victim? And it feels like he's just trying to prove, like, nah, what the defense said. No, the defense is going to defense. Your job is to try your case. And if your case is good, the defense will defense, but there won't be much that they can do. Because when your case is strong, you just show the jury your case. And then they decide if that's a crime and if it meets the elements and if the person sitting in court did it or not. That's their job. It's not your job to try to outmaneuver the defense. You're not going to get there. Just try your case. The prosecution and the defense can't both be on defense. It doesn't make any sense. It's confusing, it's frustrating, and it is a waste of time at this. It is just a waste of time at this point. We know what everyone was drinking, except for the defendant who was charged with the DUI. The bartender testified. It seems like a natural point to ask, did you serve the defendant drinks? We don't know, because the bartender never testified. Yes, I was handing the bartender drinks. I guarantee you, the lovely bartender at the Ryman last night, we had multiple chats, remembers what I was served if they were asked, because I think I make a lasting impression. Emily, it's not all about you. No, it's not. I think maybe I'm not as fun as I think I am, but which is possible. But I would imagine, I mean, there were also, it's like, do you remember the girl with the purple hair? The lovely thing about going to see Sum 41 last night, one of the lovely things with the crowd of Sum 41 and Interrupters fans, is that when you say the girl with the purple hair, it was like, which one? I was amongst all of my purple haired people last night, and blue hair and pink hair and green hair. It was very fun. So it's kind of great to be somewhere where it's like, which one with the purple hair? I was like, amongst my purple-haired, tattooed, music-loving friends at the Church of Music. It was just fun. And my husband's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm not okay. And he's like, why? I'm like, I need more tattoos. I've fallen behind. Like, people have beautiful sleeves, and all I want now is more tattoos. He's like, you can't get more tattoos because this trial is numbing your brain. I'm like, but I can though. But I can though. And he's like, no, you're not deciding to get more tattoos mid-trial to just like distract yourself. I'm like, but can't I? Because it feels like the right time. It feels like the right time for more tattoos. Also, last night, there was a guy who had a beautiful sleeve that was all like D&D. I was like, oh, my people have all converged. And then Sum 41 has a song off their new album. The choruses basically did it for the dopamine. And I was like, this is my new anthem. And the Interrupters were so much fun. It was just a fun night. Okay. Tattoos are addictive. They spawn faster than rabbits. That's just facts on tattoos. The fact that I don't have more is because I love my tattoo artist who is in Vegas. And so time has been a restriction, but I am antsy. I am antsy. Dana's like, you're having an anti-establishment allergic reaction to Lolly. I know. I mean, the kid who was rolling around with fuck authority blasting on their speakers then becomes a DA. We at some point we just revert back to our roots. So I'm going to answer questions, I promise. Though my tattoo collection like grew a little bit in college, but I was in Massachusetts, so we had to go to Vermont to get tattoos. But then as I was a DA, they started to grow. And, when you're just wearing a suit in court, nobody can tell what, if any, tattoos you have on your arms. All right. Emily, can we please go to Vegas and get tattoos? I mean, I feel like we should. Greg said, when the prosecution doesn't do any prosecuting, that tells me their case is weak. Greg, I am of the same mind as you. I'm still trying to figure out why we're all here. I'm waiting for what did you present to the grand jury to indict Karen Reed, though? Because we know it wasn't the people who saw her in the car outside the house, because none of them were questioned till after the feds found them. And why are the feds turning up new witnesses? It's just, I don't know. I mean, there's 20,000 of you here. I don't know how you feel about this case on a whole or where you individually stand. There is one thing I'm pretty clear on, is that I have not seen any of you say that you thought this was a good investigation. There are times where I think the defense is overreaching, but there's a lot of times where I think the prosecution is underperforming. This investigation seems like a complete shit show. And I don't know if we're ever going to get past that. And the defendant deserves better. The victim deserves better. You've charged someone with murder on what? Solo cups? When are we going to get to the evidence that points towards how you believe the defendant did this? Or should I say when, if ever? Okay, I'm not going to pull it. I'm sorry that I'm just leaking frustration at you, chat. And it frustrates me too, because a lot of you genuinely are asking, Emily, but how are we here? And I stream trials to help explain. And I can't explain. Oh, this was a huge announcement. Chat, I Cast Iron Mama, this is so helpful. I was looking for this a little bit at lunch, but hadn't had time to pull the court documents. Cast Iron Mama said we've missed nothing in Richens today. It was delayed until June 18th. I'm so excited for that. And now we need this case to be done by then. And it's all going to work out. Look, it's all going to work out. Wait, where's my applause? Applause, applause, applause. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about this. Okay, now I need this case to be done before June 18th. Because the Richens prelim I really want to see. For those of you that are like, Richens, who what? Corey Richens is a Utah woman accused of poisoning her husband by putting fentanyl into his Moscow Mule. But there's so much more. Like that case, I know exactly how it got charged. There's so much more. It seems that there was a prior attempted poisoning. And then she went back and asked for stronger fentanyl after he didn't die from the sandwich. She's also having an affair. There's also money involved. There is a paramour. There are some wild phone calls between her and her family that have been released. There is a walk the dog letter, not letter, novel, total fictional story, or witness tampering. You choose your own adventure on that one. There's a lot of money. It's really, really interesting. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens. She was the one. The Googles will always get you. We haven't gotten to the noodly Googles in this case yet, but the Googles will get you. She was the one that was Googling luxury prisons for rich people. She was also trying to get her family to sneak her in Crest White strips because she didn't like the way her teeth looked in the televised hearings. I mean, girl, same. I have some bleaching I need to do of my own teeth. But anyway, the Corey Richens case is wild. I can't wait for the preliminary hearing. I quite enjoy the attorneys in that case. I like the judge in that case a lot. The cases that we've seen in Utah have moved along pretty smoothly, all things considered. This will be our third in Utah? Yeah, it'll be our third case that I've covered in Utah. And it's in the same courtroom that the Gwyneth Paltrow trial was in. They actually did a really good job with the cameras in that courtroom. I quite enjoyed it. So Jamie said, I fell asleep. What did I miss? I hope the recap got it for you, but I put those up on the Quick Bits channel because Miguelina, our amazing producer here on the channel, clips those down and puts those over on the Quick Bits channel. So there is a quicker refresh. Karina said, what if any proper investigation? Has the investigation entered the chat? I saw a number of you saying, is Karen Reed in the room with us right now? Like, is there a defendant here or no? Bailey said, do all these witnesses who lawyered up get a group discount? I don't know, but also I love the Chainsaw Man unicorn going on. I wonder if they all have the what if any lawyer or the same lawyer. Tanny said, EDB, if the investigation is this shoddy, does it not automatically introduce reasonable doubt? I'm waiting to see how it doesn't, Tanny, but I can't fathom sitting at my desk, looking at everything that we know in this case, just everything that's come in at trial. The lawyers know so much more than we know. But just looking at what came in at trial, and I am assuming that the things in the defense opening statement will bear out. Things in the defense opening statement and Murdaugh didn't. Sometimes they don't. I'm assuming that they will bear out. How do you go to trial? Because the getting rid of the phones is so odd that I don't know how you go, look, I don't know what these people did, but that behavior is weird. So it's so strange. It's just so strange. Annie said, EDB, we had a commenter claiming Karen Reed had been in the garage. Did you read such a thing? That's not in court. Is it on a document? It's not in court. It's not before this jury. There's a lot of stuff that's not before this jury. I don't know what of it's true and what of it's not true because I have not gone looking for it because we're not there yet. So, yeah. JT said, Lolly, put aside the cumulative nature when there's an accusation of a cover-up / conspiracy. It just feels like bad strategy to have every person who's met in Albert come to repeat the same facts word for word. Feels coordinated. It's a very fair point. I also saw a comment in the chat. I don't know this to be true, but it was a really, where did it go? There are still quite a lot of you in here, so I don't know if I'll get to pull it up, but someone had mentioned that the screenshots are odd, perhaps because the phone, oh, there it is. Patty B. EDB, you said the screenshot looked weird to you. It's because after midnight, the date is supposed to change automatically on the iPhone, and it did not on the screenshots. They were insinuating that the phone's time had been changed. Is that potentially the issue here? That the time on the phone had manually been manipulated, and that's why the time didn't roll over, and that's why we don't see the change of date from the texts. It is a very, very good point. No one has brought it out in court, but that is a very good point, Patty, because when I'm looking at, I mean, I'm not going to expose my text messages. Judge Abby could never, but I'm looking at my text messages and she had stuff going on. So I texted her yesterday at 2:57, yesterday at 5:56, yesterday at 7:53, but it all says yesterday. And then the day before that, it says like, you know, Monday, and then whatever date, each one says the date. But even when they are yesterday, when they're spaced out in time, it still updates the time when they're not sequential. When they are sequential, it doesn't list it out that much. But even when there's a gap between them, it lists it out. Oh, it's so much. It's so much. Warren, I'm gonna expose our text messages now. Warren just texted me hi, knowing that I was looking at my texts. Thank you, Warren. Which is interesting. Can the defense subpoena all in any of these records now? No, it is way too late for that. But I don't know what records they have. And we don't know what experts are coming in. So we just don't know. We just don't know yet. So the date doesn't come up if the conversation is ongoing. It doesn't, but the day turnover should. But we'll see. I am not a cell phone expert. The day turnover should. Thank you, friend. It's good to see Amy Van Dyken in the chat. And yes, a huge shout out to the mods who, you know, the trials are long for them as well. The Lauren said, Emily, I had to put my parents' kitty down on Saturday. So thank you for distracting me with facts and humor, not fuckery. Losing a pet is so tremendously difficult. Pets are just a delightful part of our life. Jay McCarthy said, defense looked pleased with this side quest. Must be something good. Finally getting spicy again. They did look very happy today. Lolly sounds exhausted. And to be fair to Lolly, being the only prosecutor on this case, and I don't know if those sitting at a counsel table with him are other prosecutors in the office, are tech support, are other type of support, I don't know, but no one else has asked a witness another question yet. So Lolly has done all of the direct exams, all of the redirects. That is all of the everything. It is a lot. There has been no support from any other attorney in 12 days, even taking one witness. And I would think that you would be kind of tag teaming that. I mean, the defense has 3 lawyers asking questions, which means you have one lawyer who can really acutely listen to what the witness is saying and pass notes to the other. So I'm sure Lolly is tired, but I think they have another DA. I don't know why that DA is not questioning the witnesses, especially some of the witnesses that's just, not as in controversy. It seems that would be easy. Melanie said, Emily, since this is outside the presence of the jury, why does leading, non-leading matter? It's still on the record. You still have to follow the rules of evidence. So that is why it matters, because leading can plant the idea of an answer into a witness's mind. And the purpose of the voir dire is to evaluate and ascertain what that witness might know. But if you're planting the answer in their mind, you can't really ascertain what they actually know. So it's not a good way to evaluate their memory of the situation, if that helps. I said, why is this even being debated? You could easily fabricate a conversation, screenshot it, and no one would ever be able to tell from screenshots if the conversation is authentic. This is insane. There seem to be foundational issues here, 100%. And the judge says it goes to the weight, not the admissibility, and is letting the jury decide if it happened or not. Casey Cat said, I never knew how easily screenshots could be manipulated until the Eckert versus Owens case. Now I feel like I could testify in court as an expert witness. Different cases teach us different things, right? Mike said they didn't text for a month after the event. I wonder if they just moved to Snapchat. Miss Mandy Reacts, good to see you. EDB, you're such an inspiration to me. I'm Natalie, Lawyer Chicks producer. I know that Natalie has such great support. Mandy, when I go into her channel, I see how well you guys work together with getting the tech going and videos going. I always love seeing her streaming. I don't know how she does it with how busy she is with work. I have tremendous respect, and I love hearing her takes on stuff. I can't. One day there will be drinks and there will be discussion of this case, because it's the whole thing makes my head pop off. Like, it's just, I just can't. And we haven't even gotten to Brian Higgins and Trooper Proctor yet. Like, yikes. We're not even there. Dawn, thank you for the gift of memberships. Clueless said, I've heard of Zoom court, but have you ever heard of a police Zoom interview? No, I have not. I mean, I don't know if this is a new thing. I don't know. Do we need the EPA to go to Canton and check the water for amnesia-causing properties? Maybe, because there are some things people just do not remember. Let's see. Dame said, Gen X feral rules rocked unless your dad was a deputy sheriff or every trooper, city, county officer knew you and what you drove. It was life 360 watch without technology in a small town in Alabama. Dame Dystopia, that is very fair. I also drove a highly identifiable car as a teen. So there were times, if I did not get out of my immediate area, that my parents wouldn't know if we got out of our area. But if I stayed around the South Bay, my parents knew everything I was doing, because everybody's like, oh, that's Emily's car. Because I was the only one driving a massive 78 yellow Volvo. You were supposed to be home. Why is your car at Taco Bell? Because it's still open. And it's delicious. Big Murph said Life 360 time and date is impacted by Wi-Fi connection. Permission settings as well can be impacted. Thank you. It's going to be interesting to see how the Life 360 stuff comes up. How does AM know what the defense has brought? Oh, Allison McCabe. I'm by the tenor of the conversation, prior hearings is my suspicion. I don't think it's from this. I think it's from stuff outside of court. Brian said Life 360 bubbles are customizable in terms of size from 1 to 25 miles. Also, they didn't get rid of their phones. They pledged them. I think they actually donated them. I think the phones actually were gone. Lasting Memory said if you drive by an area saved by Life 360, it will say you arrived even when just driving by. So what I want to know is how close is the high school to where she was dropping people off to? Malleus Maximus said, are we still in the prosecution's case? Yes. It feels like the defense is the prosecution at this point. It feels like something, doesn't it? Mackenzie said living in Chattanooga, our cell towers pull from Central Time and we live in Eastern Time. Oh, that would be really frustrating. It does take a minute when I drive through to either to Chattanooga or to Georgia for the phone. Like the car switches over pretty quick, but it takes a minute for the phone to switch over. So I absolutely get it. I'll answer a few more questions. Did Allie see these people coming into the house when she picked up Colin? I don't remember her testimony about that, but I don't remember if they asked if she saw her aunt and uncle's car or not, because if they were arriving around the same time, here's my question. If they were arriving at the same time such that they were walking in as Colin was walking out, would they have parked behind her in the driveway? Would they have had to shuffle cars? Did she pull in behind them? So if she didn't, so I've got questions about that too. If she didn't see anybody, did Colin leave before they saw him? And if so, why say they saw him if they didn't? I don't quite remember. But she was in the driveway. And I don't think anyone said she was in the driveway. And they didn't say they had to wait to park because she was in the driveway, or, oh, we went to pull in and we had to move the car to this side because Allie was in the driveway. They didn't say that. She said she didn't see her parents' car, but her parents came over later. I don't know about her aunt and uncle's car. I would have to look. Sam said, Emily is a lawyer. How on earth do you remember all the information? I can't even remember what I had for my tea 4 hours ago. Sam, I can't remember what I ate for breakfast. Actually today I can't because Dr. B brought it. That I do remember. But when they were my cases, you know them inside out really well. This case is harder for me. There are so many conflicting timelines that there is a lot lost on me in this case. I have a lot of notes, but there's a lot lost on me in this case. But when it was my own cases, I knew them as well as like I knew song lyrics, and I'm generally pretty good at remembering things I hear. So that helped a lot in trial, is that my memory works very well by hearing things, not so much by reading. And that made it easier for me to be a trial attorney. It's probably why I never wanted to do appellate work. I learned very well in law school that I can remember what was said in lecture. But if I read, even if I read it out loud to myself, if I was just reading stuff, I did not process it the same way as if I heard it. So my memory working that way, I think, was to my advantage in trial court. Caitlin said, Emily, when you shop for clothes, food, etc., have you ever used, I can't recall when Dr. B asks you the total. Dr. B knows better at this point than to ask me how much that costs, because my answer is always, I don't know. The accountants are slowly learning this. They're like, wait, how much was this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's on the credit card statements. Like, I don't know. I don't remember. But when he asked, did you order something on Amazon? I don't recall is definitely something I will say. The thing is, I'm not being evasive. I actually don't recall. If it was more than 2 days ago and he's like, what did you order on Amazon? I'm like, I don't know. Something, I ordered something, but I don't know what it was. So yes, there are times I will say I don't recall. I'm just not going to let my kids use it. Did you empty the dishwasher? I don't recall. No, go check. Casey Cat, do you think the jury is wondering why the Commonwealth isn't talking about Karen Reed? I imagine they are. I am. I think we all are. Emily, it doesn't say delivered and the time. It doesn't say delivered and the times are on the right, should be in the middle. I don't know when the iOS changed. So I don't know if the times were always in the middle. I just don't remember well enough, but they look odd to me. That's the best I've got, but it's an excellent point. Music to my soul. Is it possible Lally was forced to bring this case? I mean, at the end of the day, this is my perspective. As a prosecutor, you can't present it poorly because you don't agree. If you don't agree with the prosecution, it is your job to either say, I am not prosecuting this case, or to go to the office and say, this is why I'm not prosecuting this case. And then if somebody else in the office, I mean, I've had coworkers say to their supervisors, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this case. You can't make me do this case. At the end of the day, it's my bar license and I'm not doing it. So if you want to try this case, go to court and do it yourself. Did they get fired? No, civil service immunity. Isn't it a beautiful thing? But not always, most of the time. But yeah, I have also said, I'm not doing this case. Nope, not doing it. I've also advocated for cases to not be filed, to be dismissed, to be investigated more. And the rest of it, that is your job. It's not an easy job. It is a hard job, but it is your job to not prosecute cases unless you know that you can prove them beyond a reasonable doubt. If the evidence comes in and someone is found not guilty, if witnesses change testimony, if witnesses aren't found credible, but you know that you can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, you take it to trial and it's found not guilty, then that's what happens. But you can't take a case to trial to try to convict someone of murder if you don't think you can prosecute it. So you have to be able to stand up to the higher ups and be like, do what you're going to do. I imagine in this jurisdiction, they're not going to transfer this DA to fucking Antelope Valley or whatever. In Los Angeles, the county is so damn large that there were times in the office that if you pissed off a supervisor, you might find yourself enjoying a 3-hour commute each way to work. It's a large county. Oh, you live in the south of the county? Antelope Valley's in the north of the county. I hope you have a small jet to get you to work during the day. Hope your family would like to move. Oh, you know what sounds lovely for you? To drive to Pomona. Have fun. So it is tough and it is difficult. And standing up for what is right is difficult, but some prosecutors have to be able to do that. They have to. And if they're not, it is horrific. So if Lolly is being pressured from the higher ups and doesn't believe in this case, Lolly should have said to the higher ups, okay, well, you can find someone else to do this. So good luck with that. That's not an easy thing to do, but that's kind of the job. I mean, you don't become a DA to be popular. That's definitely not what it is. Octonation, good to see you. 42 months. Oh, how far we've come. Yes. Also, if you loved me, you'd download the Laundered app. Octo, not the passive aggressive. If you even loved me, you would download the Laundered app. But I mean, also not wrong. Laundered fan, what happened to the white Jeep? The white Jeep was being driven by Tristan, the boyfriend of Caitlin Albert. But what happened to the Jeep with the snowplow on it, Higgins's Jeep, I have a lot of questions about. I have a lot of questions about Higgins's Jeep. Izzy said, how do you feel about Jackson cross-examining Colin? We can talk about it tomorrow. I don't know yet. I don't know if Yannetti would be a different choice, a better choice for that. I don't know. We'll see. They're both very good attorneys. And I'm sure they've divided up the work and divided up the key witnesses strategically. So we will see. All right. Let's continue on. Kanoko said, I love EDB so naturally. I downloaded the app, just saying, well, thank you. I appreciate it. If you want to stay in the loop, I know we don't have every day, all day. I'm going to get Moo Boy Moo. I'm going to get to this question and then I'm going to roll. I am tired. MB said, I need a chart. The state could have used one. The Commonwealth could have used one. And they've chosen not to. But I understand needing a chart. Moo Boy Moo question, is there a time limit for the state, the Commonwealth? No. The way the judge ends for lunch at the end of the day, I'd be surprised if she just cuts the state off and said, you're done. I've had enough. No, but the judge, I wonder, I just wonder if the judge is going to start making the frustration more known. We can see it. You can see the frustration with the prosecution and the move it along and the, can we not continue going over and over the same stuff? You can see the judge frustrated. But the prosecutor hasn't been picking up on those cues, or at least hasn't been changing course because of them. but there's no time limit. But the jury was given an 8-week estimate. The closer we get to that, then it's going to get really, really difficult. And the problem is that they can't really crunch the defense's time. The prosecution has had 3 weeks and 31 witnesses, and we're not even there yet. So that is wild. Lena said, EDB, I have screenshots of text messages from 6/22. There's no timestamp off to the right. It's in the middle. Good to know. Good to know. Marianne said, Ali has been practicing for 18 years, so around the same amount of time as me. Is it possible to see how many cases he has prosecuted? I have no idea if that's possible in the state of Massachusetts. I'm not going to look, because we're just going to let it play as it does. Thank you with that, Cleopatra. No spoilers, please. The tech thing is really interesting. We'll see if we'll see what the defense does with that. So, Letta, I see that there may be a chart somewhere. I appreciate that. Google will block links, so I apologize for that. If the chart is available online, people can find it. The hard thing is this jury doesn't have it. So if we're confused, imagine how they feel, right? And we get to do this from the comfort of our own home or work or what have you. All right, with all of that, I am going to probably go take a bath. As I said, I was doing so well last night at not wrecking my body until We're All to Blame came on. And then I just lost my mind. And then I was like, oh, this will be fine. Because when everybody, it's just like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's not fine. I preserved my voice. I am not totally wrecked. My husband this morning is like, Emily, how are you doing? Hey, babe, how are you doing? I'm like, my hip hurts. My neck hurts. And I had a great time last night, but I've never felt older. And he's like, I get it. And that is, that's kind of hilarious to me that we're both just like, ouch. So all of you, take care of yourselves. Have a good night. I will see you bright and early in the morning. The court has made it very clear that we're starting early tomorrow. And though the court's made that clear, I'll probably still start at 8:10 because, I'll probably still start at 8:10. And then we can zoom. Tomorrow's a half day in court. Thank God for it. I've got a haircut tomorrow. I'm very excited about it. So Lawnards, it was a hard hump day, but I'll see you tomorrow at around 8:10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Are we in daylight time? I think we're in Central Daylight Time. Central Daylight Time. Is it still May? I don't even know. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making this the #1 place to watch live trials, and I will see you tomorrow. You can stay up to date with everything I'm covering and fast notifications on our free iOS and Android app at lawnerdapp.com or search the App Store for Lawnerd. You can also follow me around social media, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Emily Show, with quick bits dropping every Monday, summarizing everything I do here on the live streams on Tuesday and Thursday for when you just have time for the quick bits. Thanks for being a Law Nerd.